You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Enters to Love Ru. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Moto Akira on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Wait what? You two are engaged? That was about the reaction Izuku expected from his two friends. Although maybe he should have told them when they weren't right outside the dorms where all of their friends and classmates could hear. Izuku desperately tried to quiet them down as they both stared at him with a shocked look. Well, Ida was shocked. Uraraka had a very angered look about her. Please. Not so loud. WWHH how could this be Midoriya-kun? Ida quietly yelled at his classmate as he tried to wrap his mind around what Izuku just told him. The two of you just met last night. Not to mention that you're a hero in training. Your mind should be focused on your education and training. Things like engagement are things you shouldn't be thinking about for years. Izuku gulped a bit, intimidated by the fierce look Ida was giving him. As Izuku was about to explain himself, he suddenly felt his collar being grabbed. Izuku looked down and flinched violently as he saw Ochako picking him up by the collar and giving him an incredibly fierce glare. Yes, Ochako growled, causing Izuku to feel shivers up his spine. How did this happen? Izuku gulped once again as he managed to pry Ochako off of him. He looked around to make sure no one was listening in on their conversation. Once he determined that no one was listening, Izuku gestured for them to come closer so he could whisper to them. They leaned their ears in close as Izuku whispered how the engagement worked right into their ears. Ida's face went red and Ochako went pale. Are you serious, Midoriya-kun? Ida asked with a bewildered tone. All Izuku did was blush and slowly nod his head. Melon, Ochako muttered as she suddenly felt her world shatter. Almost like the time May had her melons pressed up against Izuku's chest and then his back and then his face after that one explosion. Normally I try my best to respect other cultures, Ida muttered in a slightly uncomfortable tone as she readjusted his glasses as they got a little undone due to his shock. I have to admit that is quite the bizarre and unorthodox proposal method. Can't you break it off though? Surely they understand that it was just an accident. Melon, Ochako repeated, her expression unchanging. I tried but apparently even if it was an accident it's a big deal. Izuku told Ida as he looked down and remembered the threats Zaston made to him. Long story short, if I try to suddenly break it off because it was an accident could cause her planet to go to war with us. Both Ida and Ochako, who finally snapped out of it, flinched at this information and looked down. I see that would indeed be disastrous. Ida admitted as he was still coming to terms with aliens truly being real. And for a war to start with them over something like this, it would be like a movie coming to life and not in the good way. While I admit that I found the idea of aliens completely fictional after the events of last night, the evidence all adds up. Starting a war with them could bring about all kinds of destruction. Yeah. Izuku nodded grimly. He then slapped his cheeks and shook his head as he tried to get his focus back. Look, let's not think about that. I'll dig around as much as I can and see if I can find a way to break the engagement without starting a war. Hopefully there is one. I wish you luck, Midoriya. Ida gave his friend a supportive pat on the shoulder. The gesture did Izuku well as he looked up at his engine quirk using friend and nodded. But for now, we must focus on our academics. So let's not waste any more time and get for class and you work out your punishment. Right. Izuku said in agreement with Ida as the latter headed to the school. Izuku was about to head back into the dorms but then looked to see Ochako standing in place, not moving at all. Uraraka. Are you coming? Aha, yeah. Ochako nodded with a simple response. Izuku tilted his head a bit at her but was satisfied with the answer and faced the door to the dorm. You better break the engagement. What was that? Oh, nothing. Izuku blinked at Ochako but simply decided not to question any further and headed for school, where he quickly saw Mineta and Kaminari exiting out of the dorms glaring at him with dark auras. Lucky BSTRD, the two pervs said in unison. Today's not gonna be easy for me, is it? Meanwhile, at UA, we see Zaston in the principal's office. The principal's name is Nizu. He is an interesting character to say the least. He is a chimera, a combination of various different animals. It's hard to tell what he truly is. He could be a dog, a bear, a mouse, or a moose. Who's to say? That's not important. We see these two having an important discussion that correlates to Lala and Izuku. I appreciate your understanding, sir. And once again, I apologize for any trouble we have caused to your school and students. Zaston said, giving a humble apology to Nizu. No harm done. I'm glad that it wasn't a villain attack. But it's pretty surprising that everything that happened last night was due to a misunderstanding and a simple girl running away from home from certain responsibilities. That definitely happens in dramas. Nizu humorously says. When Zaston was thoroughly interrogated by some of the pro-heroes working at the school, they discovered that he didn't pose a threat, nor did his agents. The next question the teachers asked was what they were there for. They bluntly explained that they were there to bring Lala back home, convicted to resume her royal duties, such as picking a suitor for marriage. Many teachers present for the interrogation were stumped, having no idea what to say after they got all the necessary information out of him and his agents. It was determined that they were not a threat, and they would be allowed to stay only if they behaved well. As everyone was about to leave and call it a night, Nizu stayed behind to have another discussion with Zaston. He wanted to discuss plans regarding Lala. When morning came, Nizu was about to call Zaston to continue the discussion, but he told them to wait a moment because Zaston had something important to discuss with Izuku. However, he assured the principal that nothing bad would come to him, he just wanted to talk to him about some important matters regarding Lala, which the principal allowed. Which brings us to where we are now. And which reminds me that I must inform you, Sir Lala-sama has already chosen her suitor to become her husband and the ruler of our planet. It's one of your students, the one called Midoriya Izuku. Zaston informed. Well, that's interesting. I didn't see that one coming. I can immediately assume that Deviluk-san will wish to attend UA with Midoriya-san. I have no doubt about that, Lala-sama. It's quite attached to Midoriya Izuku, so it stands to be logical. Zaston answered. I will start her enrollment at UA immediately and make a class schedule for her. First things first, what are her strengths and weaknesses? Back of the dorms. Some time has passed since everyone has left for UA. The only individuals in the dorms are Izuku, Bakugo and Lala. Lala asked where the others were going. Izuku explained to her that everyone was heading for school. Lala remembered that Izuku had mentioned UA and also informed her that it was a school for training young heroes when they first met. This got her asking him why he and Bakugo weren't going. Izuku was about to answer the question, but Bakugo came in and told her that they had gotten into trouble and were on house arrest for it. Whatever the reason was, it didn't matter, that's all she needed to know. They proceeded to order Izuku to clean the guy's bathroom while he worked upstairs. Izuku was heading to the boys' bathroom. His father was about to follow him for assistance, but he insisted that he could handle it. He suggested that Lala watch TV instead. At the time, his father happily took his suggestion. We see Izuku coming out of the boys' waiting room with a mop bucket and some towels, indicating that he has finished his chore. We see Lala sitting on the couch watching TV very tentatively, with an amazing, mesmerized look. Curious, Izuku decides to walk towards her and talk to her about what she's watching. Hey Lala, what are you watching? He asked curiously. Oh, a fun show called Magical Kyuko. There's a marathon going on today. Lala answered. On the TV screen, we see a woman with short black hair and violet eyes, wearing a blue skirt, a red angular hat with a yellow figure, a white shirt with white laces in the center, a blue bow fastened with a red brooch, red gloves, and a red cape. Lala-sama. The voice of Zastin is heard by Izuku and Lala later on to see him enter through the doors of the dorm. Zastin, how was the meeting? It went well, Lala-sama. Anyways, I came here to inform you that the head is back to the ship and you need to form dash. Zastin, wait before you leave. I need to talk to you about something privately. Izuku says. Zastin raises an eyebrow in suspicion but replies with a single nod, a sign of agreement to discuss something. We find both Izuku in his dorm room with Zastin by themselves. Izuku leads Zastin into his room to talk privately about the matter of breaking the engagement, which said discussion infuriated him. You wish to cease the engagement with her? Zastin yelled as he drew his sword at Izuku. He wasn't exactly thrilled. Was that said in jest or do we have an issue? No. No. You got it all wrong. Izuku said as he quickly tried to calm Zastin down. It was clear he wasn't gonna be peaceful about this topic, so Izuku had to think of something. Come Izuku. Think of something. Think of something. Think something. Not having a lot of time, Izuku quickly answered with the first thing that popped into his head. It's a hypothetical question. CRP. Izuku exclaimed within his thoughts, but to his surprise, this actually calmed Zastin down and got him to lower his sword. Oh, a hypothetical question. The Devolukian said in a calm tone. You should have said so. This guy's not so smart. Izuku said within his thoughts with a deadpan expression he couldn't believe that actually worked. But he wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth and just decided to go with it. So say I had to break the engagement with Lala, for whatever our reason, is there a way to do it? WW without starting a war, of course. Zastin hummed and put a hand to his chin in thought. This made Izuku silently gasp, since this likely meant there was a way to do it. Well, the Deviluk engagement ceremony has what we call a cooling off PRD. Zastin explained to Izuku, who gave his complete and full attention to Zastin. Cooling off PRD? Izuku questioned, gesturing for Zastin to go on. Well, in Earth terms, Zastin began the explanation. If I purchased a certain commodity and was given the incorrect goods, I could then in turn give it back. As I didn't get my intended item. So it's the same as a return policy. Izuku couldn't help but chuckle a bit at how simple this was. He was expecting some super complicated alien thing. One more thing about the cooling off wedding clause, Zastin continued as Izuku quickly quieted down. It must be concluded within 24 hours of the engagement. Really? What is it? Izuku asked quietly, as not to invoke suspicion in Zastin that this was just a hypothetical question. Well, to put it simply, you have to touch her melons. Zastin added Izuku how long face of bewilderment, but that quickly faded and turned into a deadpan look. You've gotta be kidding me. You've certainly gotten yourself into a lot of different situations, young Midoriya, but I think this might take the cake. After Izuku learned what he had to do in order to break the engagement peacefully with Lala, Izuku felt like he needed someone to talk about it with. So after texting him, Izuku was now in the dorm's infirmary room with his mentor and hero, All Might. Unlike the posters and other stuff in his room, All Might was seen as a skeleton of a man. This is All Might's true form, and the form everyone now knew about due to All Might using up the last embers of One for All during his climatic showdown with the villain All for One. But despite that, All Might continued his career as a teacher for the next generation of heroes and as a mentor to Izuku. The reason they are meeting in the infirmary is that Izuku is still under house arrest. Coming to the dorms and having a private discussion in the infirmary is all they can do for now. Currently, Izuku just finished explaining the whole situation to All Might. All Might had heard a little bit about the whole Lala thing from Mizu and Aizawa, and now he knew everything thanks to Izuku. While the revelation of aliens existing was quite a shock, at this point, All Might had learned to take what life throws at him, so he didn't really show any doubts if he had them. Although you gotta admit, an alien girl suddenly becoming your future wife sounds like every nerd's dream. All Might, that's not helping. Izuku yelled as his face quickly went red, a sight that caused All Might to chuckle a bit. Come on, take this seriously. Izuku exclaimed. Sorry, couldn't resist. All Might apologized to his successor before clearing his throat. So you found a way to break the engagement, huh? Why, yeah, I did, Izuku shyly answered as he turned his face away from All Might, not wanting to say what exactly he had to do to break it off. I just wanted someone to talk to this whole thing about. It just came onto me like a freight train and has got me all shaken up. Well, suddenly becoming engaged and becoming the heir to an alien planet will probably do that to you. All Might said as he passed Izuku a cup of tea to help calm him down. He could practically feel the stress coming from Izuku. Look, I'm not gonna pretend that I understand or get what's going on, but are you sure you just want to break it off? Huh? Izuku looked at his mentor with a bit of a surprised look. He wasn't expecting All Might to say something like that. What do you mean? Just that life sometimes throws huge surprises at you. I mean, look how you came to be my successor in the first place. Izuku nodded as he remembered everything that happened perfectly. He saved Bakugo from the sludge villain that Izuku caused to get away from All Might. Despite being a weak, quirkless kid, his feet moved without Izuku being able to control it and rushed to save his former friend. After that, he learned about All Might's quirk and how it can be passed down, and how All Might chose him to be the next one to wield this great power. The Greenette would certainly say that was a surprise that life threw at him after pretty much screwing him over. Maybe you just gotta take what life throws at you. I mean, of all places Lala could have ended up, she ended up with you. Maybe that means something. I haven't thought of it that way. Izuku was now thinking about it more. Of all places in Japan, in UA itself, Lala could have ended up in, she ended up in front of him. Granted, naked while he was taking a bath, but still. Life did have a funny way of working out after all. But still, Lala may have appeared in front of him, but the engagement proposal was a total accident. He felt bad and like he was leading Lala on with this. She did seem nice, but this was just a bit too much for him. But I think this is the right thing to do. I just doesn't feel right letting this go on when it was just an accident. Yeah, I guess I understand that. Good luck, young Midoriya, I'll make sure to approve you taking her off campus. All Might said in a reassuring tone to Izuku. This was his choice and All Might respected it and trusted it. But there was one thing the former #1 hero was curious about. By the way, what do you have to do to break the engagement anyway? All Might questioned seriously. Izuku shyly looked away from him. I rather not say. Izuku looked away briefly embarrassed, but then something suddenly hit Izuku. Also, might you think you can help convince Aizawa-sensei to let me off campus for a little bit? I know I'm under house arrest, but I need to break things off with her privately, and I can't do it in the dorms. I'll try to have a word with him and see if I can convince him. All Might says he knows it's going to be a bit impossible or tricky to convince Aizawa, but he'll try for Izuku. Wow! It's so pretty here, Izuku. Lala said as she looked at the area with sparkles in her eyes. The sun was setting over the city, and it made the area around them even prettier. Izuku had taken Lala to a river in the nearby area, and the setting sun made the moving water sparkle, really showing its natural beauty. Thank you so much for taking me here. Sure, no problem. Izuku said nervously, with his eyes glued to Lala. Specifically, her chest. Unfortunately, Izuku needed to touch her melons in order to break off the engagement. The accident that got him into this mess in the first place made him embarrassed to do so, but it had to be done. Izuku thought it would be easier to do off campus, and maybe taking Lala to a pretty place would make it hurt her less. Once everyone had concluded classes for the day, Izuku, along with All Might, confronted Aizawa. They tried to persuade him to let them go off campus with Lala. Aizawa found this request to be awfully suspicious, so, not one for playing games and just wanting to get straight to the point, he asked what their intentions for Lala were that had to be done outside of campus. Seeing no other option, Izuku decided to come clean to Aizawa about everything, including how the engagement could be broken off. Needless to say, he was dumbfounded and looked at his green-haired student like he was crazy, but he could tell that he wasn't joking. So reluctantly, he allowed him to get his plan over with. He advised him to get it done quickly and get back before curfew. He also let Izuku know that if somehow he fails to break off the engagement, he doesn't want to hear him complain about it. "Hey, what's wrong, Izuku?" Izuku was snapped out of his thoughts as he looked up to meet Lala's eyes instead. "You look really nervous. Even more than usual." "Well, if I'm being honest here," Izuku slowly began. He had to do this. Just a quick and easy grope. It would be better to just rip the band-aid off and get this whole thing over with. Izuku then pointed to the spot on the ground next to him. "Here, why don't you sit next me?" "Okay." Lala happily obliged and sat down next to Izuku, her eyes continuing to admire the river. "So I wanted to talk to you," Izuku quietly stuttered as he spun his thumbs around. Guilt making his way into him due to the thoughts of what he would have to do. "About our engagement, I mean dash. You've made me so happy," Lala suddenly said, cutting Izuku off. "Huh?" he let out, not expecting to hear words like that as he looked to her. "You've saved me from an endless life of boring, involuntary marriage meetings," Lala explained as Izuku gave her his ears to listen. "I know the lifestyle sounds carefree, but it's rough being royalty. People don't value you as a person, they expect you to do things for the sake of the thrill and all because it's my duty as a princess or my father said so. No one ever listened to me or asked what I wanted. They expected me to embrace it all because no one bothered to understand my feelings," Lala said in a frustrated voice. "Need I remind you, Lala-sama?" Peak spoke up from on top of Lala's head. "Not everyone." "Oh right, sorry about that." Lala smiled and apologized to her robot companion. "Everyone aside from you, Peak." "That's right." Peak giggled. "So that's the reason you ran away from home?" Izuku said with a sad tone after hearing Lala's story. "You're different from anyone I've ever met before," Lala complimented Izuku as she looked up at the orange sky, the sun slowly lowering in the distance. "You treated me like an individual from the moment I appeared in your life. You listened to my story, you believed me, and even fought Zastin to protect me. And you were ready to do it again at the drop of a hat this morning." Izuku looked down and nodded a bit as her story hit close to home for him. Being told you couldn't do something you really wanted your whole life. Hardly anyone valuing you as a person. Being stuck in a bad situation just because life handed you a bad hand. An instant later, he began to recall all the things he was told throughout his life. "Sorry kid, it's not gonna happen." "I'm sorry Izuku. I wish things were different." "Useless Deku. You die in the exams. Be a hero." "No, not without a quirk." Izuku began, getting Lala to turn to him. Her face took on a sad turn as she saw the somber expression on Izuku's face. "That I know what it's like to feel like you'll never get to do the one thing you want to do." Lala's eyes widened a bit at Izzy's words as she listened to his story. "My biggest dream has been to be a pro hero. One who saves everyone with a smile on his face, like All Might. But I was, a late bloomer. For most of my life, I was seen as quirkless. I was told by everyone from my teachers to the friends I lost that I could never be a hero. Even when I first met All Might, he told me I couldn't be a hero. Not without a quirk." Lala went silent, listening. She felt really sad for Izuku's past and what he had gone through. "I honestly don't know why I kept trying," Izuku continued as he dug into old and painful memories. "Maybe I was trying to give myself false hope, maybe it was the only thing keeping me going sometimes. I had no friends, no one really stood up for me, and even the man I looked up to said I couldn't do it. Yet, whether through hope or stubbornness, I just kept going and tried to be a hero in whatever way I could. Izuku, Lala said quietly, feeling her heart ache over what Izuku was telling her. Lala's words snapped Izuku out of it as he turned to see Lala's sad expression and tears coming from her eyes. OCRP. Izuku let out as she quickly stood up and started to apologize to her. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry. You're really amazing, Lala told Izuku as she wiped away the tears from her eyes and gave him a soft smile. Izuku let out as he felt his cheeks go pink. Practically everything was against you, Lala said, feeling her hands dig into the ground below, hating to imagine what it must have been like for Izuku. My life as a princess may have been hard and controlling, but you went through so much. I can't even imagine what it must have felt like having everyone turn and look down on you, putting you down, Lala said, on the verge of tears coming out of her eyes again. It wasn't easy, Izuku said sadly. But then he proceeded to put on a small smile and look at her, trying to brighten things up. But look where I am now. If I stopped trying, I wouldn't have been here. And I wouldn't have met you, Lala said as she inched closer to him and pressed her arm against his. But instead of getting super flustered and nervous, Izuku decided to lean into it. The feeling of contact was quite nice now, especially after revealing all this to her. Yeah. I wouldn't have. Izuku said as he looked down at the sparkling river. That small smile on his face staying as he said. But I did. I'm really glad we did. Lala said as she leaned her head against his shoulder. Yeah. Izuku suddenly felt a hand go around Lala and instinctively pull her closer. His words completely genuine. Me too, Izuku then felt a vibrate in his pocket and, removing his hand from around Lala, took out his phone. Turning it on, he looked to see he had 10 minutes left to break the engagement. 10 minutes to know. Hey, I'm sorry for bringing you out here. Lala let out, slightly confused by Izuku's words. The greenette stood up and took Lala's hand to help her up as well. But why dash? If you want, there's a little sweet shop nearby I could take you to. Izuku offered her, his way of apologizing for trying to break the engagement. Oh, that sounds great. Lala's mood took an instant 180 as she went back to her usual happy and peppy self. Something that made Izuku smile. She was better like this, when she was happy. Come on, I'll take you there. Izuku chuckled as Lala attached herself to his arm, allowing him to lead her to the shop to get her hands on some earth sweets. Yay! Lala cheered before looking at Izuku with a smaller smile. And Izuku? Yeah. Izuku asked. If there's anything that's bothering you, please tell me, okay? Lala asked, making Izuku blink at her a few times in surprise. I will promise. Izuku nodded at her. Thanks, Suzu. Lala said sweetly, Izuku blushing a bit at the nickname she gave him but did not objecting to it. Now come on. I want to try some earth sweets. Alright. Izuku chuckled as he started to take her to the shop. While on their way to the shop, he was talking about a worry look slightly appear on his face. I hope I didn't made the wrong choice, and I wonder how Ida and Uraraka will say about this. Izuku questioned worryingly. What? You didn't break the engagement? Why not? Maybe Izuku should have waited a bit before telling his friends. The second he told them about why he chose not to cut it off, he was met with both shocked looks and was treated to Ochako grabbing him by the shoulders and shaking him violently. Her face an expression of pure Bakugo-level rage as she demanded an answer. I'm sorry, she just brought something up and I just feel like a terrible person if I did it, especially then. Izuku did his best to explain why he did what he did with Ochako shaking him violently. Ida meanwhile sighed and readjusted his glasses. You always were kind-hearted, Midoriya. Ida complimented Izuku in a calm tone. That's just one of your many quali. Uraraka stopped shaking him. Ochako growled a bit but ultimately and reluctantly gave in to Ida's demands. The gravity quirk user stopped shaking Izuku and let go of him, the green net falling to the floor with swirls in his eyes. Izuku tried to regain his footing and stand up. But once he did, he looked to see Ochako heading over to the elevator of the dorms. Uraraka-san, where are you going? Izuku questioned concerning Ochako turns around and when they defeated hollow expression that spooked him. I'm gonna go to bed early, Ochako told him quietly, not looking back as the elevator door opened. But, how Izuku cut himself off as he watched Ochako quickly enter the elevator and quickly close the door, likely heading up to the floor that had her dorm room. Ida and Izuku simply watched this as the former turned to the latter and asked. Do you think she's okay? Ida said to Izuku with a concerned tone. I don't know, Izuku said with a worried tone as he looked at the elevator door. I hope so. He said within his thoughts. Midoriya Izuku. Izuku flinched as he heard the voice of Zaston behind him. Oh, good evening, Zaston. Izuku greeting him in a nervous tone. Please come with me. There's something I must show you. And don't worry about informing your teacher. I already did that for you. We are at Ground Beta, one of the dummy cities on UA, designed to be used for the students of the hero course for their quirk training. Zaston was impressed by the site itself. Alright, we're here. So, when do you want to show me? Izuku asked. Zaston brought out a very small, menacing-looking object with a skull in front of it. On top of the object, there appears to be some kind of talon-like pincers holding onto a small crystal. Izuku gave that object, curious what it was. Izuku, I brought you a direct message from Lala-sama's father, King Deviluk. Zaston informed. Lala's dad. Izuku stuttered worryingly. The object that Zaston is holding is some kind of recording device. Yes, he is a great person who united the war-torn galaxy and stood at its zenith, Zaston said with admiration. Now listen to him carefully. Zaston Saturday let go of the object. The object began to float, and the claw on its head released the crystal. The crystal began to emit a slight glow. Hey Midoriya Izuku. Upon hearing the voice of Lala's dad made him flinch. What a scary sounding voice. Izuku said, intimidated and frightened. I heard Zaston's story, and therefore I shall approve of you as one of Lala's fiancé candidates. I've heard Earthlings are rather puny, but from what Zaston has told me, it has caught my interest. Perhaps you Earthlings aren't as puny after all. I probably see why Lala likes you. I'll be looking forward to seeing your capabilities. Oh great. Izuku stated in panic at the king's statement. Listen well. I will eventually decide when the marriage ceremony will be held, so until then, try your best to protect Lala. And one more thing you should know, the entire galaxy is fully aware of your existence. Thus sooner or later, other fiancé candidates will appear in front of you, and they'll try to take her away. If you manage to protect Lala from them and complete the marriage ceremony without any harm, then you shall be my successor. But if you let Lala be taken away and fail to fulfill my expectations, I will smash your life along with that small planet you live on. Remember it well. The message ends right there. Izuku is in a state of shock. He's speechless. Is all he could say. He was given a task by her dad to protect her and keep her away from any of her previous fiancés candidates. The news of Lala being engaged to him has already spread through the galaxy. To add to the pile, he was told by her dad that if he failed this simple assignment, he would destroy him along with his planet. Needless to say, he is starting to feel the stressful pressure that he's under right now. Izuku. Zaston better than causing him to break out of the state of shock. You should be aware that His Highness is very serious about this matter. Furthermore, there was once a man who behaved improperly in front of him. After successfully infuriating His Highness, he obliterated him along with his planet. Zaston informed. Which means that if you don't live up to his highest expectations, the Earth will disappear without a trace, Zaston added. Izuku turned pale while he said he was used to pressure, but this was far beyond any pressure he had felt before. He was in for a rough time. 3 days have passed. Izuku's house arrest has ended, and it is time for him to resume his classes with his fellow students. During the last day of his house arrest, he and Bakugo were doing their mundane tasks that were given to them as punishment. Meanwhile, Lala was on the couch, tinkering with something. The one thing that was pretty eventful for them was chasing Yui, the pet rabbit of Koji. They pretty much spent most of their time chasing the rabbit while Lala watched them chase the rabbit as a spectator. She found the whole thing to be rather amusing and funny. After that, Izuku met with Aizawa and handed him a written apology for the incident that he and Bakugo caused. We see Izuku now in his summer UA uniform, straightening his tie with a very serious look on his face. Zuzu. The voice of Lala broke him out of his serious state of mind. He turned to see there is a confused look on her face. Oh, hey Lala. Can I help you with something? Izuku asked. Why are you wearing the same clothes as everyone else? Lala questions, noting this is the first time she has seen Izuku in his uniform. Oh well, yesterday was my last day on house arrest and today is the day I can finally return back to school. Izuku explained. School? Lala questioned with the tilt of her head. But she quickly realized. Oh right. That hero school that is close to the dorms everyone goes to when they're not here. Yeah, I missed 3 days. I have a lot of catching up to do and I'm not going to miss out anymore or fall behind again. Izuku stated with a serious look. Lala couldn't help herself but giggle at Izuku's serious look and demeanor. She found it endearing. Okay. Have fun at school, hero. I'll see you later. Izuku said as he left the dorm to the school. At class 1A. I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused. Izuku exclaimed as he apologetically bows to everyone that was in the classroom. Good job, Deku, for serving your time, Ochako says, almost sounding robotic, with her eyes looking a bit hollow. The reason for this is that she hasn't fully gotten over the fact that Izuku didn't break off the engagement with Lala. Serving your time, really? And are you okay, Uraraka? Jiro asked, worried about the look he noticed on Uraraka's face. Idakun, I'm sorry that I disappointed you. Izuku exclaimed to Ida, still using that tone volume of his voice. It's alright, it's enough to you reflected on your actions, but what's gone into you now? Ida questioned on Izuku's sudden intense serious demeanor. I've got to catch up with everyone for those 3 days of lost time. Izuku declared. Those days not attending school had really riled them up. Oh yeah, I admire your passion, man. Aich says, complimenting Izuku's conviction. Finally, their teacher, Aizawa, appears behind them, looking menacing. Everyone in your seats, Aizawa says menacingly, causing Izuku to flinch. An instant, we see everyone in the classroom already sitting at their desks. Good morning. Now that Midoriya is back, we will go into more details about the work studies, Aizawa says, looking to his left at the class entrance. Please come in. Aizawa said. The classroom doors slid open, which got many of the students' attention as Aizawa continues to speak. Here to tell you how work studies differ from internships. They are students who experienced it firsthand, so listen. As Aizawa continues, we cut to Izuku, who has a look of anticipation. His eyes quickly widen as he spots someone he has seen before. Out of all the students at UA, these are the top 3 third years, Aizawa informed as the 3 students came in. The first student is a tall young man with a very muscular build and noticeable scars around his lower arms. He has a very cartoonish face with blue oval-shaped eyes and a nose that is prominently rounder than most others. His blonde hair is arranged in a cowlick at the top, while the bottom section is swept backward. The second student, a 17-year-old girl with fair skin and periwinkle-colored eyes, had long and thick upper eyelashes. Her hair was the same color as her eyes, reaching down to her knees. It twisted around itself at her waist and curved inward around her legs. She also had side-swept bangs, tucked behind her ears on the right and hanging just over her eyes on the left. Additionally, she had 2 short clumps of hair on either side of her face. The last student is a male. He had rather pale skin with elf-like ears. He had messy indigo hair that sticks out behind his head, along with thin, tired-looking eyes. They are known as the Big Three, Aizawa declared, as the three top students stood in front of all of Class 1A. The Big Three, Izuku muttered at the three senior students with a myriad of emotions. UA's top students. The Big Three. Big Three. Mina exclaimed excitingly. The crown among the splendid UA students. Ida noted behind him. We see Ochako seems no longer to have hollow look for now. The ones closest to pro-heroes among us. Yaoyorozu stated. These guys, I heard about them but you think you wouldn't think so by looking at them, and one of is really pretty too. Denki commented, finishing Jiro's sentence. Target acquired. Mineta says with a serious telling his thoughts there is eyes. He was checking out the female student from top to bottom to leg. Acquired is all he said within his thoughts, practically drooling at the sight of the attractive female student. That person, Izuku mutters as attention is focused on the blonde student. He was from back then, Izuku doesn't it starts he remembers back, he recognizes student, he's seen him before when he was taking out the trash right after the spaceship crashed front of the dorms. I only saw his face then so I didn't realize, but now I remember. Izuku faded. Then he has a flashback. We see Izuku sitting at a couch back at his old residence where he lived with his mother watching TV. At the sports festival I watched on TV last year, Izuku in his flashback let out a surprise screech on the TV. He saw the blonde of her classman on the track putting on his clothes. He didn't rank very well but he left a strong impression. Izuku says that's the flashback ended. Back in reality he focuses attention on the other upperclassmen. If I remember correctly the two next to him didn't rank near the top either, but there are the UA Big Three, huh? Izuku gulped nervously. I wonder what kind of heroes they are. Izuku wondering thoughts. Okay, can you please introduce yourself briefly? Aizawa told them politely. Let's start with Amajiki. Aizawa suggested as he focused on the pointy-eared student who is Amajiki. Suddenly out of nowhere Amajiki began to glare intimidatingly, which caught all the students in the classroom off guard, feeling the intense pressure that he was emanating. Whoa! All that intensity just by one sorry. Ida stated he feel the immense intensity coming from Amajiki. Amajiki continued to stare at the students in front of him intensely. We zoom in to his eyes and we stare back through his point of view, and his point of view we see all of 1A with potatoes for heads. No good. Amajiki says. Then suddenly he begins to some reason nervously shake. Miro Hondo, I was going for potatoes but they all still look like people from the neck down. What do I do? Having trouble speaking. Amajiki says in a nervous shaky voice. Many of the students looked at him puzzlingly. My mind's going blank, I can't, Amajiki says, looking a bit pale, then suddenly quickly turn his back on the class. I want to go now. Amajiki exclaimed. Huh? Everyone thoughts at the same time. Aren't you one of UA's top in the hero course, right? Ojiro asked confusingly. Oh listen Amajiki-kun, that's called having the heart of a flea. Even though you're human it's so weird. The female student said with a wide smile, then she directed her attention to the students in front of her. This is Amajiki Tamaki the Fleet and I'm Heido Nijire. The girl now named Nijire, introduce yourself. And Amajiki. We're here today to talk to you about work studies, but wait. Before she could continue Nijire approached Shoji and got a little too close in his face. Hey why are you wearing a mask, are you sick? Before he could answer her question Nijire shifts her attention to Shoto. Wow, and you're Todoroki-kun, right? Hey, why do you have a burned scar on your face like that? Shoto was about his answer her question before she's to just switches her attention to Mina. Ashido-san, those horns, do they grow back if you break them? Do they move? Mina hovered her hands on her horns. The Nijire threaded her attention to Mineta. Mineta-kun, are those ball on your head or your own hair? How do you get a haircut? Mineta reacted with a blush. She's all over the place, it's kind of cute. Denki gushed. She's like a kindergartner. Mina commented. She wants to know about my ball that SXL and my senior. Mineta said with a somewhat unsettling grin as a dark aura begins to surround him. Momo, who is sitting behind him, cover her mouth and discuss. That's not it. Shiro stated. Hey Ojiro-kun, can you hold yourself up with your tail? Nijire questioned as he shives her attention to Ojiro. Well, Hey, please answer me, I want to know. Nijire pressuredly questioned Ojiro. Aizawa activated his quirk menacingly at Miro. This is starting to become irrational. Aizawa stated in an irritated tone. Eraserhead, don't worry, I'm the main event, right? Miro played it as he leans on his right, holding up his ear. The futures is. Miro needed BLD cancer or questions asked in a somewhat humorous manner. Everyone in the classroom it's confused what he is talking about. Going to be grim, just joking guys. Good, my opener was a huge fail. Miro begins to laughing off the bad joke he started with. Those three are strange, they somehow don't feel like the real big three. Sato whispered to Kota and Tokoyami. It's kind of hard to tell what they are made of, Tokoyami said dryly, then quickly Miro stopped laughing. Well, you guys look like you don't know what's happening. All of a sudden third years have appeared to explain about work studies that you don't have to do. Confusing, I get it. Miro says, then bray a chin on his hand in a thinking motion. You got your Prevail license as first years, right? Humph, the first are truly interesting these days. He commented in an impressed and interesting tone. Well, let's see, since my joke didn't work. Both Nijire and Tamaki looked at Miro with a concerning look. Miro? Tamaki said worryingly. How about you all fight against me at once? Miro said in an energetic suggested tone. What? Everyone in Class 1A exclaimed at sudden suggestion. Izuku looked at Miro with a confused look. It'll be more convincing if we show you our level of experience firsthand, don't you think so, Eraserhead? Miro asked. Aizawa looked at Miro finally until giving his answer. Do as you like. Meanwhile, we see Lala making her way to UA. Now arriving at the school, she couldn't help but marvel at it. The school was a sight for sore eyes. Lala-sama, I think we should go back to the dorms and wait for Zaston. Remember what Izuku said about security being tight and everyone being on edge. Those rooms you stumbled into sure had everyone looking surprised when you came in. And given how strong these earthlings seem, it would be best not to provoke them. I don't want to see you get hurt, Peak said, concerned. Giving a little context, a couple of days ago, after Izuku tried to break off his engagement with Lala, and that night when Zaston returned to the dorms with him, Izuku, who was still in a state of shock after a certain message that was delivered to him, Lala was confused as to why he was in a state of shock. Before she could ask her fiancé what happened to him, Zaston pulled her aside to have a chat with her. He informed her that she was going to have a meeting with the principal in 2 days to discuss her attendance at UA. The news got her excited, and she wanted to tell Izuku about it. However, her caretaker, Zaston, stopped her. He told her it was best not to disturb her fiancé right now for various reasons, such as delivering a message from her father. He saw the look in his eyes, which told him it was probably not best to tell the princess what happened, and he seemed to need time to process what he was told. Hearing the voice or being in the presence of His Majesty could have anyone be on edge. So her caretaker suggested that Lala should surprise him when she gets her schedules in order. She found the idea of surprising to be fun and agreed to it. You worry too much, Peak, it'll be fine really. Lala reassured her robot companion as the pink-haired alien is standing at the main school entrance. Besides, Zaston is taking forever, and it's no fun without anyone else. The only one at the dorm is Kaken, and he's no fun and very loud. Lala huffed as she used Bakugo's nickname, which she had heard Izuku say yesterday. Besides, there's nothing to do back dorms. I'm sure Zuzu won't mind if I surprise him to say hi. Peak just sighed a bit as she remembered Izuku saying that guests weren't exactly allowed in class. But knowing Lala, she probably either forgot or just didn't pay it any mind. When she got like this, there wasn't any reasoning with her. So she simply let Lala go on her merry way. Now inside the school, Lala can be seen walking through the halls of UA High School searching for a certain brunette boy who she dearly wanted to see, and surprised she spent many minutes exploring the school. Unfortunately, she wound up getting lost. Why is this place so big? Lala muttered as she walked through the incredibly wide hallways looking for more of those supersized doors that led to various classrooms. See no option to see. You decided to check the various doors to find Izuku or any of the students that live with him at the dorms. Class 1E, nope. Class 1D, nope. Class 1C, nope. Class 1B, nope. Meanwhile, the hero students of Class 1B just watched as a girl with pink hair wearing a strange outfit poked her head into their classroom before ducking right back out the door. Everyone was silent, not saying a thing about the strange sight until a student with a skull-like face named Juzo spoke up. Okay, he spoke up, getting all eyes on him. I'm not the only one who saw the pink-haired girl, right? Oh, thank goodness. A student known as Tetsu said with a relieved sigh. I thought I was going crazy. Meanwhile, Vlad King just sighed as he saw Lala poke her head into his class. What is she doing here? Shouldn't she be with her caretaker meeting with Nizu? The BLD hero said as he was one of the few to know exactly what the situation was like minus the whole engagement thing. Seeing no one familiar in the 1B, she immediately closed the door, leave me everyone confused wondering who that girl was. Finally she found Class 1A, wasted no time to open the door only to find it to be empty. She let out a pouty face and really closed the door. Elsewhere in the halls of UA, we see Nizu walking across the hallways of the school with two fellow pro heroes and teachers of UA at his side. To Nizu's left was a tall, curvaceous woman with sky blue eyes, which tilted downwards in the center, framed by a set of rather long eyelashes. She had an abundant amount of spiky dark purple hair that reached below her waist with hin-length bangs that are split into 3 sections. She also had a mole under her left eye and red painted nails. Her hero costume could be summed up in one word: DMNTRX. She wore a black leather melon-less leotard over seemingly transparent white bodysuit, which really made her body and legs stick up. Her leotard possessed red gemstone-like accessories in a vertical pattern from the collar to the midriff. She also wore a pair of translucent black thigh-high stockings that are connected to a red utility belt decorated with gold studs around her hips, a matching pentagonal buckle in its center, and black knee boots. She had a small, red mask outlining her eyes, a handcuff on each wrist. This is Kayama Namuri, aka the R-rated M hero, Midnight. To Nizu's right was a tall, slim man with long blonde hair, which was spiked upwards in a huge tuft behind his head, and a small, brown mustache. He also had rectangular eyes with concentric greenish-yellow pupils. His hero costume consisted of a black jacket with a very tall collar, upturned and complete with studs, and matching black pants and knee-high boots. He sports tan shoulder pads and a red belt and elbow pads, all studded, and black fingerless gloves. His neck was obscured by a directional speaker along with a pair of headphones with the word Hage written on the headband and a pair of orange-tinted shades. This is Yamada Hizashi, the voice hero, aka Present Mike. And that about sums it up on the current situation of Lala-san and Midoriya-san from what Zaston informed me yesterday. Nizu summarized for Midnight and Mike. Nizu knows about the message that Izuku got from Lala's father. The reason he knows about this, simply put, he struck a deal with Zaston to know everything that involves Izuku and Lala becomes his business to know. They were both looking incredibly confused, worried and frightened at the whole situation. The dear girl ended up in the bathtub with Midoriya, and her father sent men to try and kidnap her and take her back to her home planet to resume her royal duties, and now finding out that one of our students is engaged to the girl and he is put in charge for her safety by her father. If he doesn't fulfill his obligation, our world is doomed. Midnight reiterates. Right, Midnight slowly said with an unsure look on her face. In all of her years of knowing Nizu and teaching at UA, she knew that the little chimera would never tell a lie. He is also an incredible source of information, and she could count on her fingers in one hand the amount of times he was wrong. But this whole situation seems unbelievable at the same time, quite frighteningly. No offense sir, but dash. That sounds totally nuts. Mike quickly yelled, cutting Midnight off and making the M-rated hero a bit ticked at him, while making wild and vibrate movements with his body. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that aliens are real. And now you are telling us that our planet is doomed if Midoriya doesn't keep this Lala girl safe from her other suitors. Present Mix shouted while Present Mix personality is loud and wild. After hearing this it was taking it to a new level. I realize how far-fetched that sounds, but given all the evidence and from what Zastin has informed me I find no reason not to believe it. Nizu stated with his usual calm tone and smile on his face. Oh, where is he? Speeding past them was none other than Lala herself, who was speeding up her search for Izuku. "Yoo," Mike let out as he and Midnight blinked a bit at Lala while Nizu simply kept his usual expression on his face. "Was that her?" Midnight asked as she pointed to the alien girl who was turning her head in every direction it could in search of a certain greenette. "Why, yes it is." Nizu chuckled a bit at the sight of Lala looking around for her fiancé. "Looks like she's looking for Midoriya-san." "Is that so?" Midnight spoke as she saw an opportunity. She may be a bit on the fence of the whole alien thing, but Lala was still a very cute girl, and the fact that she was looking for a certain green-haired boy triggered her dom instincts. Deciding to help Lala in her boy search, Midnight stepped forward towards the girl and licked her lips. "Excuse me, young lady," Midnight called out to Lala, making her turn to Midnight. "If you're looking for Midoriya, he's in class 1A. I was just there and the classroom was completely empty." Lala frowned a bit at hearing the class name. "Well, if the classroom is empty I can only assume that Eraserhead took everyone at Gym Gamma." Midnight informed Lala, causing the princess to tilt her head at Midnight with a curious look, giving her a look akin to a child. "So youthful." Midnight gushed a bit at Lala's personality and looks before speaking further. "You'll find them in the training yard outside." "Oh, okay." Lala instantly perked up with a bright smile that made Midnight gush over the girl. "I just gotta look around outside a bit." "Thank you." Lala thanked her as she waved goodbye to continue her search. They all watched as Lala flew down the hall. "Ah, young love," Midnight sighed happily as she watched Lala go search for her beloved. Mike meanwhile found himself snickering at another possibility. He, can't wait to see how Eraser reacts to this one." Mike says he could tell Lala was a girl of high energy. One of Aizawa's least favorite things. "Well, now that's taken care of, I have dash. Nizu-san." As he was about to finish his sentence, Nizu along with Midnight and Present Mike saw Zastin panting, looking a bit sweaty and exhausted. "Zastin, what's wrong?" Nizu asked calmly. "I went to go retrieve Lala-sama from the dorms for scheduled meeting, but when I got there she was gone. I assumed that she might have come to the school, but I looked everywhere, she's nowhere to be found. I suggest that we run out of search party and find her quickly before anything could dash." "Not to worry, Zastin, myself and the teachers here have seen Deviluk-san a moment ago. She's heading to the Gamma Gym as we speak." Nizu explained. Zastin let out a sigh of relief. "Oh, thank goodness, thank you for letting me know, sir. I shall go fetch her at once." Zastin Therapy quickly rushed off to get the princess, but he quickly returned back. "Sorry, forgive me for asking, but do you know where the Gym Gamma is?" Zastin asked. Back to Lala, we see her outside of the building on school grounds looking for Gamma Gym. As she was exploring, she came across a large building that looked like some kind of training facility. The facility is Gamma Gym. Curious, Lala activated her wings and flown to one of the windows. As she peeks through the window, her eyes immediately lit up when she sees a familiar shade of green of hair. Lala quickly descended back to the ground, then she comedically swung open the doors to the facility and flew forward to Izuku. "Zuzu." Izuku's eyes widened a bit at the voice and looked to the source and quickly gasped as he was quickly tackled into one of the pillars inside the flown past the big three. "Whoa, what the heck was that?" Kirishima yelled as a small cloud of dust was created from that crash. Meanwhile, Aizawa already saw who it was and quickly felt tick marks start to appear on his head. "Found you." The cloud of dust disappeared and everyone saw the scene. Lala had managed to track Izuku down to hug him, but ended up becoming a bit more than a hug, as the way Lala landed meant that her melons were pressed down right on Izuku's face. "That lucky bstrd. Culinary and Mineta," who were pretty much glaring at Izuku all day, yelled at the sight. This caused Izuku to snap his eyes open and allowed him to see the situation. Izuku couldn't say anything as he was turning red then a bit blue from being pressed against her chest. Ochako glared rather violently at Lala. A few of the boys couldn't help but feel a little bit frightened as they could feel an aura of anger and jealousy that she is emanating with the girls, especially Mina and Toru, snickering a bit at the scene. Lala hummed and tilted her head at Izuku as the greenette failed to make actual words. Is something wrong, Zuzu? Devilukesen, please let go of him, you're suffocating him. Ida yelled at the girl. Lala looked down and saw she was pressing Izuku down with her chest and giggled a bit as she got off him. Oh my bad. Just got a little excited is all. Lala apologized to Izuku as the boy quickly crawled away once Lala was off him and tried to hide his incredibly red face from his classmates. Who is that girl and what is she doing here? Miro questioned at the girl who just stormed in on their class. Midoriya, Izuku flinched a bit as he slowly looked to his teacher as the black-haired man glared at Midoriya, activating his quirk for extra intimidation. What's the meaning of this? I am so sorry, Aizawa-sensei. Izuku quickly apologized so he wouldn't have to face his teacher's rage, which usually involved getting strangled by his scarf. I'll get this clear up quick, I promise. Izuku then grabbed Lala's wrist and dragged the alien princess away from everyone to talk to her somewhere a little far away from hearing distance. Hey Eraserhead, who is she? She knew I didn't see her in class today. Nijire asking her now usual curious and happy demeanor. Unwelcome guests that we were begrudgingly tasked to look after. Aizawa said in an annoyed tone. What are you doing here, Lala? I thought you're going to stay in the dorms. Yeah, I know, but after a while it got really boring without you, and Kaken is mean and no fun. Lala told Izuku with a bit of a frown and a face that pretty much told him that she missed him. Izuku couldn't help but feel a little guilty at leaving Lala all by herself. The girl, despite being here for 3 days, is still brand new to Earth and didn't know a thing about it, and he left her by herself. While he did have no choice as he had to get to classes, it still bothered him a bit. So I went looking for you, and that nice lady with the mask told me you were out here, so now here I am. Nice lady with the mask? She must mean Midnight. Izuku guessed at hearing Lala's description of the woman who told him where he and his class was. Sighing a bit, Izuku scratched the back of his head as he looked to Lala. Look, I'm sorry for leaving you by yourself. I should have tried to figure something better out. I just needed to get to class quickly and I couldn't just bring you with me. I know, but still. I'm here now and I promise I won't be a distraction. Lala put her hands together and gave her best puppy dog eyes to Izuku. An act that really got his heart pumping. So can I please stay? Please, 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 please. Well, this wasn't really Izuku's decision to make. It was his teacher's. Looking back to him, Izuku flinched a bit as he saw Aizawa glaring right at him and looking rather impatient. Look, I'll ask Mr. Aizawa if you can stay. Yay! Thanks, Izuku. Lala perked up and gave Izuku a quick hug before pushing him in the direction of Aizawa. Izuku blushed at the hug and quickly went over to his teacher, who was losing even more patience. Well? Aizawa asked, wanting an answer immediately. WLYUCIK kinda had to leave Lala in the dorms this morning all by herself with Kaken. Izuku explained the whole situation to his homeroom teacher, who was giving Izuku's his full attention. So she got lonely and Midnight told her where we were. Maybe if it's not too much trouble she can stay and watch us. Then we can figure out what to do after class is over. Aizawa simply sighed at what Izuku told him. First off, he would have to give Midnight a hard time later for telling that alien girl where he and his class was. Second of all, Izuku did have a point in that something needed to be figured out. And Aizawa doubted that Lala was the kind of girl that would sit still by herself for long periods of time if today was anything to go by. Fine. She can stay. Hooray. Before Izuku could say anything suddenly Lala, who had somehow heard everything, was quick to rush to Izuku's side and latched onto his arm. "Thank you so dash. Here's how it'll go." Aizawa interrupted Lala as he glared at her with his quirk activating again. Which got Lala to flinch and shut her mouth a bit out of fright. "You'll do everything I say and you're not to distract the students. Or else. Do I make myself clear?" Lala shook a bit before managing to get a hold of herself and saluted the tired-looking hero. "Yes sir." Lala told him as Aizawa deactivated his quirk. "I can already feel the migraines," Aizawa mentally sighed to himself as he rubbed his forehead as Lala and Izuku joined the rest of the students of Class 1A. "Alright, we wasted enough time, let's go." Aizawa says he ordered his class to leave the gym immediately along with a big three. Culinary grumbled a little bit as he walked forward, glaring at Izuku as he passed by, and got ready to leave the gym. Meanwhile Izuku blushed more as he felt nearly all of his classmates eye at him. The looks were a little bit intense, so he fell behind of the class so to avoid their gaze. Izuku lowered his head and didn't say a thing, hoping the heat on him would die down. But instead Siro walked up to him with a grin on his face and nudged Izuku with his arm. "Bet you're happy about this, Midoriya," Siro said to him in a teasing voice. "It's too bad your girlfriend didn't get to see you to show off your skills." Hey wait a second, you got it all wrong. Izuku tried to explain as his face got even redder. "Oh don't be so shy Midori." Now it was Mina's turn to tease as she walked right next to Izuku and started to squeeze his arm, making him blush even more. "Bet you'd love to show Lala what you're packing under you PE cloths." As Izuku got even more flustered with his classmates as they continued to tease him, Ochako simply found herself glaring at Lala, who was happily standing next to Izuku as she spoke. "Well, I am certainly excited to see how strong my future husband is." Everyone, minus Aizawa, Ochako, and Ida, looked at Izuku with incredibly widened eyes. Meanwhile, Izuku just covered his face with his hands, wishing he would disappear off the face of the planet. "Why Lala, why?" Izuku asked Lala, who just seemed oblivious to everyone's shocked expressions. "Wait. Lala-sama." Everyone's attention on the two of them shift when they heard the voice Zastin and saw him coming in eye view. "In the halls of UA. Why would you say that in front of everyone, Lala?" Izuku and Lala could be seen heading to the principal's office being escorted by Zastin. Honestly, he couldn't be more thankful for Zastin as he was now away from all of his classmates who now knows everything about the whole engagement thing. His neck still hurt from Mineta and Kaminari strangling him. "I don't see what the big deal is though," Lala said with a happy oblivious tone as she skips in the hallways, still not seeing how big of a deal it was. "Everyone should be allowed to know about our love." Ugh. Izuku didn't say anything and simply groaned. He is starting to realize that is no getting through to her. "Let's just go see what Principal Nizu wants." "Okie dokie." Lala brightly chirped as they continued moving through the hallways. Soon enough they reached the doorway leading into Nizu's office, and inside they saw Nizu, Midnight, inside all having a cup of tea. "Oh hey, you're the nice lady from before." "Hi." "Hello there Lala, and please dearie call me Midnight." Midnight properly introduced herself to Lala, giving the alien girl a wink as well before turning to Izuku. "I heard about everything that happened Midoriya, and I must say congratulations on the engagement. Never knew you were such a naughty boy." Izuku gulped a bit with his face quickly heating up. It didn't help that Lala latched onto his arm again. Izuku desperately wanted to tell Midnight it wasn't what it seemed, but the presence of Zastin in the room and the memory of his threats made it so he couldn't do that. So he settled with making himself as small as possible. "Thank you," he said nervously. Midnight giggled at his shyness as the modern art teacher walked towards the two kids. "Now don't you kids have too much fun," Midnight told them with cheeky tone, patting Izuku on the shoulder as she made her way out of the office. "You are only 16 after all." "Huh?" Lala didn't quite get what Midnight meant by that and looked to Izuku, whose face has now reached night light levels of glowing. "What does she mean by that, Zuzu?" "Nothing." Absolutely nothing. Izuku quickly told her as he tried to get those M-rated thoughts out of his head. Meanwhile Nizu simply chuckled at the scene before speaking up. I'm so glad you two could make it. Please help yourself to some tea and sit down. We have a bit to discuss. The two teens nodded at Nizu's words as they both grabbed themselves some tea and sat themselves down on the couch. Now then, a couple of days ago Zastin has explained everything to me, and after discussing the situation a bit, I believe it may be for the best to allow Lala to attend UA. Lala quickly smiled at the news while Izuku found himself a bit surprised. Nizu was just going to allow Lala to start taking classes here. Given what has happened, I would just hate to force you two to split up, and I don't just want to see the girl locked in the dorms all day while he's at school. I believe UA has a lot to offer you, young Lala. And I'll be giving Zastin a guest pass so he can continue watching over you. Oh, that's fantastic. Lala clapped her hands together in excitement. Happy that she wouldn't be in the dorm rooms all day and could take classes with Izuku. So am I in the same class as Izuku? Actually, from what Zastin told me about you, I believe you'll be best suited for Class 1H in the support department, Nizu informed Lala, making her frown a bit. He's explained to me how gifted you are at creating various gadgets. In the support course, you'll learn how to make all sorts of gear and costume upgrades for heroes. I'm sure you'll just love it. Well, I guess that sounds fun. Lala lowered her head a bit as Nizu gestured her to go on with what was wrong. While Lala did like building stuff, and an entire class dedicated to that sounded great, there was something next to her that she preferred even more. I was just really hoping to be in the same class as Zuzu is all so I can be around him more. So you want to be a part of the hero course, do you? Nizu asked as the grin on his face grew a little. For some reason Izuku felt himself get goosebumps at the look the principal had. Especially since he remembered from the final exams how Nizu can get in certain situations. Well, perhaps we could work something potentially. Yes, please. Lala quickly asked, willing to do anything if it meant she got to share a class with her fiancé. Well, why don't we discuss it a little more? And while we're at it, we can get started on making an official document to classify you as a Japanese citizen. It'd be best not to let anyone outside the school know that you're an alien. Nizu explained to Lala, who nodded at the principal's words. Midoriya-san, Zastin, would you kindly leave the two of us to discuss everything? Of course, sir. Zastin said in a respectful tone, and Izuku replied with a respectful bow. It is now closing to sunset as we find ourselves back at the dorms. Hey, if you got trash, hand it over. Bakugo exclaimed. Bakugo here. Aijiro came out with a bag. I got some trash here too. Tokoyami says he was coming in with the same size trash bag as Aijiro. Me too. Denki said. Me 3. Siro said. Same here. Mineta came in with a bigger bag than the other guys. Next, we see Sato coming in with a bag. Following him, Aoyama then comes in. Next is Ojiro, seeing the large number of trash bags presented by his classmates. Bakugo is beginning to get a little ticked off and annoyed by the large assortment of trash that the guys are bringing. UBSTRD, you've got too much trash on you. He exclaimed in frustration. We then see another part of the common room where all the girls are sitting together. Toget-senpai's speech at the end is so moving. Mina said with an ecstatic tone. Toru agreed. I am looking forward to my internship as well. Tae says. I wonder if they're still thinking about letting us first years to participate. Ochako wondered. For now, we should wait for Aizawa-sensei's approval, Momo says, straightening her hair with her hands. At the entrance of the dorms we see a happy smiling Lala practically skipping her way in, looking rather joyfully. She looks around to look for her fiancé again, but he doesn't seem to be in the car room. She quickly spots the girls sitting at the couches. She promptly to move towards them. Hey everyone. Lola said cheerfully. What's got all the girls' attention, even Ochako, who was looking at her calmly but inside she was still fuming. Hey Lala, what's up? Mina greet her. Do you know where Zuzu is? I don't see him here. Lala question. Do you mean Midoriya? I saw him heading to the elevator. I believe he's in his room. Momo informed. Okay, thank you. Lala said. I see, headed to the elevator. Moving on, we find ourselves back in Izuku's room on the phone. Ha! Work study, who the heck is this? The voice of a grumpy old man could be heard on the other line. The individual is called Gran Torino, All Might's former teacher. Well, I was wondering if you could take me on work studies, Gran Torino. Izuku asked Gran Torino, sounding a bit nervous. You ignore me, and you've turned into a big shot, huh, kid? Gran Torino said in almost impressed tone. Izuku waited eagerly for Gran Torino's answer about taking him under for work studies. Sorry, I'm working on something else right now, so I can't take care of you. Oh, yeah, you were a useless successor at the sports festival who didn't get any other offers, huh? Upon hearing what Gran Torino said, our greenette flinched in panic. His mind quickly flashed back to the fight he had with Bakugo. His face quickly hardened into resolve. It's because I'm a useless successor that I'll do whatever it takes to be the top hero. Izuku said determinedly. There's no need to get all dramatic when stating the obvious. If that's all it is about, why not have a chat with your mentor? He's supposedly giving it his all as an educator nowadays. But Aizawa-sensei said to use the connections we got from the sports festival. Which is all well and good for those who've got them. All I can do is open all 4 doors for you, like his former sidekick. Izuku widened his eyes slightly upon hearing about all my former sidekick, but suddenly Lala barged in his room happily, which surprised him out of his trance. Zuzu, there you are. Lala said happily. I'll talk to you later, Gran Torino. Izuku said as he hung up his phone. Who was that on the phone? You were talking to Zuzu? Lala questioned. Oh, it was just the teacher of my teacher. Izuku answered, which confused Lala a little bit. Anyways, how did it go with Nizu? Izuku asked. I talked to Nizu about it, and he's gonna let me take both the hero course and support course. We're gonna be in the same class. Isn't that amazing? Lala said as she excitedly hugged him. Wow, yeah, it really is. Izuku said nervously. The idea of Lala attending class with him is a bit nerve-wracking, especially there is going to be some hazing and teething from his classmates regarding her. His life from here on out is not going to be easy, going to have his challenges, but at least it'll be an extra layer of excitement. It's now been 5 days since Lala has been staying at the dorms of UA with Class 1A. Her engagement to Izuku is known to everyone, and the only thing hidden from them is the fact that ending the engagement would lead to war with planet Deviluk. But despite that, Izuku was somewhat fine with it. He didn't seem to mind it or think of it as a big deal anymore. He would still go about his normal routine every day, only with Lala added into the mix. However, there are 2 problems he has to deal with and possibly get used to: waking up every morning to see Lala sleeping next to him in his room, NDE, and possible threats from Lala's fiancé candidates, who want to claim Lala for themselves. But regardless, he was fine with the situation. However, there is one individual that is not taking this whole thing very well. Hey, Uraraka, are you okay? Mina asked as she saw an off look on Ochako's face, a hollow-eyed and smile branded onto her face. It was the same look she had yesterday. Mina wasn't the only one. With her, all the other girls were present too, and they had the same look of worry and concern for Ochako. It's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it, Ochako told Mina and the rest of the girls in Class 1A. In a monotone voice. They also noticed that she has been staring at Lala, who is wearing a purple shirt along with a red checkered skirt that Pete created for her, with the little robot seen as a small hair clip on her head, as could be seen making food in the kitchen with a big smile on her face, as they all looked at her with a concerned expression. You don't look fine, Mina commented as she and the other 1A girls kept their eyes on Ochako, knowing exactly what was wrong with her. She was experiencing heartbreak. All the girls were aware of Ochako's crush on a certain greenette, and they could see the jealousy and hurt feelings due to a certain alien princess becoming engaged to him. This became even worse when Izuku willingly didn't break the engagement. It's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it, Ochako repeated, not reacting to anything the girls were saying. You already said that, Momo said with a sweat drop, Ochako's expression unchanging. It's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it. I think she's broken, Jiro stated with the other girls nodding in agreement. Mina even scooted closer to Ochako and snapped her fingers in front of the gravity quirk user's face and didn't get a single reaction other repeating the same line. What about to happen again? It's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it. Yup, totally broken. Toru nodded in confirmation to Jiro's words. No denying it at all. It's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it. Alright, that is it, ladies, initiate emergency plan Delta. Mina ordered everyone as she raised a fist in the air. But Mineta isn't in the room right now, Momo stated as she used her quirk to create a metal baseball bat and held it in a threatening manner. Wow, no. Mina quickly realized her mistake and chuckled a bit. I mean emergency plan Beta. That makes more sense, Karo. Tsuyu croaked as she held a finger to her bottom lip. Alright Tsu, grab Uraraka and take her to her room. Mina ordered the frog girl, who nodded and proceeded to use her tongue to pick up Ochako and started heading to the elevator as Ochako kept muttering the same line like a broken record as her friend carried her. Momo, get the emergency ice cream from the freezer. Hagakure, get your laptop and a chick flick collection. I'll go get blanket for her to use. Jiro, your best, breaking up, soundtrack. Yes ma'am. All the girls said as they went about Mina's orders and got the stuff to help Ochako get through her breakup. Tada. Lala happily cheered, while wearing a purple shirt and checkered magenta skirt courtesy of Peak Abilities, who is seen as a small hair clip on her head. She presented a bunch of dishes on the tables in the common room for everyone from Class 1A. All except Ochako and Tsu, who were both in the former's room, the latter watching her for the day. To thank you all for accepting me into your planet, school, and class, I thought I'd make you all breakfast today. Lala said excitingly. Everyone is silent as they looked at the food Lala had made them. While they are all grateful for Lala wanting to make them food, after seeing the food they were suddenly less enthusiastic. The food she made certainly didn't look nor did it smell at all like food, normal food. Instead it looked a bit sloppy, gross to almost sinister looking. What realms of the underworld did this crawl out of? Tokoyami quietly said as he poked the food with a fork. Lala, we appreciate the gesture, Izuku told her while trying to get a smile on his face despite the absolutely awful smell coming from the food. Although a part of him is questioning if the food in front of him, if the food she presented is normal for alien food, or was Lala just a bad cook? But are you sure you know how to cook? I've never actually cooked before. But I am an inventor. And cooking is pretty much inventing, but with food. Can't be that big a difference. Lala revealed, making many of the students flinch a bit and dread their dishes even more. Why yeah, Ojiro nervously let out as he fought the urge to run away from his food as fast as he possibly could. I'm not sure I can do this, Aoyama said as he instinctively rubbed his stomach worriedly. Is this even a color? Kaminari gagged out as he covered his nose. There's no babe hot enough to make me wanna eat this. Mineta said bluntly as he pushed his plate away. After hearing this, Lala whimpered a bit as tears started to build up in her eyes. Izuku was quick to get up and try and calm Lala down as Momo looked to her classmates. See, come on everyone, I'm sure we're just overreacting. Despite her claims, Momo looked just as nervous as everyone else at the tables. Maybe it's not as bad as we think, Mina said, hopeful tone. Perhaps, Gita said in an unsure tone. So who's gonna take a bite? Ijiro asked as everyone looked at each other. Just waiting for whoever was brave enough to try and take a bite of Lala's cooking. Suddenly, a fist ping on the table got everyone's attention. They all turned to Bakugo, who was looking at everyone with an annoyed look. OSCK it up you pussies. Bakugo yelled at all of them as he scooped up some food with his fork, an act that made everyone gasp. He's actually going to do it, everyone simultaneously exclaimed in their thoughts. Space food probably just looks different. I'll show you. Bakugo exclaimed as he stuffed the horrible-looking food in his mouth. Everyone watched with widened eyes as Bakugo stuffed the horrible food in his mouth and started chewing. Everyone watched with anticipation over what his reaction would be. Sub-Zero slowly began. How is it? Bakugo was completely silent at first as he chewed his food. Ack. Then suddenly he let out a GG and coughing sound before falling out of his chair and while making choking sounds. His body turned white as he squirmed around on the floor due to the effects of the food. Everyone stood up from their chairs and looked down at Bakugo in concern. Especially when foam started to come out of his mouth. Holy CRP. Kirishima yelled as he looked at Lala and pointed at Bakugo. You killed him. Eh. Lala yelled in concern over the effects her food was having on Bakugo. I'm so sorry. Lala quickly apologized for what she has done. We should get him to the nurse's office. Momo said as she lifted up her shirt and was prepared to make a stretcher for Bakugo. Clear. Suddenly Kaminari jumped up and towards Bakugo with electricity flowing through his hands. The electric quirk user landed in front of Bakugo and placed his hands on the explosion quirk user's chest and unleashed a jolt of electricity. Everyone thought Kaminari was crazy for doing this, but the results proved fruitful. After the jolt, Bakugo suddenly snapped up, color returning to him, and the foam disappearing from his mouth. Everyone couldn't believe what Kaminari did actually worked. Bakugo took a few deep breaths as Kaminari backed away from him. Just then pure rage came to his face as the explosion quirk user glared daggers at Lala and pointed at her. Crazy B, you tried to kill me. Bakugo roared as he got back up on his feet and destroyed the rest of the poison Lala made him with an explosion. Oh yeah, no need to thank me, just saved your life is all. Kaminari sighed out as Bakugo completely ignored him despite the electric quirk user saving his life. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make you all a nice meal is all. Lala apologized to Bakugo as she clapped her hands together and bowed to him. Your heart was in the right place, Lala. Izuku tried to cheer the alien girl up and keep her from crying. Heart, my eye almost died. Bakugo continued yelling at both Lala and Peak, who flinched violently at his aggressiveness. And I saved your life, no big deal though. Kaminari grumbled. So what should we do with the rest of this? Shoji asked as he backed away from the dish Lala served him. Throw it in the dumpster. Shoto recommended as he got up from his chair to throw away the menacing, disgusting food. What did raccoons ever do to us? Sato joked and successfully got some chuckles out of a few of his classmates. All of you be quiet. Suddenly all the students did just that as they all turned to see their homeroom teacher Aizawa walking up to them. All the students quickly gathered up in front of him and wasting no time. Aizawa nodded in satisfaction. Before he could speak, he wincing a bit, he smelled something foul. He was about to ask what the hell it was before noticing all the food on the tables. That combined with the saddened look on Lala's face, it told him everything he needed to know. Deciding to just ignore it and leave it to his students to handle, Aizawa began his announcement. Good, now then I have some important news for all of you, Aizawa told them with his usual tired tone as all the students waited in anticipation for what their teacher had to say. You'll all be in a newspaper soon. A newspaper? All the students, except Lala, who didn't know what a newspaper was, asked in unison. That wasn't at all what they were expecting Aizawa to tell them. Yeah, they want to do a feature on your class for some reason, Aizawa explained to them simply. But after looking around, he only saw about 19 of his 21 students. Asked. Where's Uraraka and Azui? Aizawa asked. Mina is quick to raise her hand and explain. Well, Uraraka wasn't feeling too well today, so she's in her room and Sue offered to watch over her. Mina told her homeroom teacher. That statement wasn't exactly a lie as Ochako wasn't feeling like herself today at all. I see, Aizawa said as he looked over Mina to see if she was lying. Well, there was something more to it. It didn't seem like a complete lie, so he accepted the excuse. Very well. Hey Zuzu, Lala got her fiancé's attention, forgetting about her cooking disaster, by pulling on his sleeve. What's a newspaper? It's pretty much a way of spreading information around, Izuku explained to her. Pretty much a bunch of articles and pictures on a series of paper. And comics as well. Oh, that sounds fun. Lala smiled as she latched onto Izuku's arm, making him blush a little bit. That's kinda surprising, huh? Culinary said while looking back at some of his classmates with an excited smile. Not really. Ichiro shrugged as he crossed his arms behind his head. Honestly, with all that's happened to both UA and their class alone, a newspaper was really kind of a downgrade. Yeah, I mean, the sports festival was on TV, Ojiro stated. He remembers how he and his classmates are often complimented while on the streets for how they performed during the sports festival. Lala however found the sports festival to be something else. She didn't know. She'll have to ask Izuku about it later. We gotta look super cute in case they wanna take our picture. Toru said in a peppy tone, being one of the ones excited for getting to be in a newspaper. For sure. Mina cheered as she was ready to make herself super adorable for this interview. Meanwhile, Jiro's simply sweat dropped and gave Toru a sheepish smile. I think you'll be just fine, Hagakure. Jiro told the invisible girl, who probably wouldn't stand out too much in a picture. That's enough, Aizawa said sharply to get all of his students to quiet down and straighten up. This did the trick as they all quieted up and stood with completely straight postures, complete with arms, while said Lala gulped a little bit as she wasn't sure how this man did it, but his stare just seemed to make her freeze and the tone only added to it. It's nothing too exciting. The articles about how you're settling in, adjusting to dorm life, that kind of thing. Principal Nizu thought it would be a good idea. This'll show your parents and guardians that you're happy here. Maybe set a few minds at ease. As Aizawa continued talking, Mineta looked up at the student next to him, being Siro, and said. Newscasters are usually hot. This is awesome, right? In typical Mineta fashion, he was only focusing on the potential perverted aspects of this whole thing. He said it was for a paper. Siro's sweat dropped as he told the pervert this. While Siro certainly did like pretty and hot girls as much as the next guy, he as well as many others agreed that the midget really took things way too far. Despite Siro's words, Mineta quickly started drooling in perverted lust at the thought of a female reporter reviewing him. If she wants to write an article about my sticky ball, I'll give her an all-access pass. Mineta said, getting many disgusted looks from his classmates. I'll let her dash. Thankfully, putting an end to his perverted rant was Mr. Aizawa, who used his scarf to entangle Mineta, making the tiny pervert squirm. Whoa! That's so cool! Lala said in amazement as she saw Aizawa's scarf at work. I expect you all to be on your best behavior for today, Aizawa ordered his students, activating his quirk for extra intimidation as usual. Don't worry on my account, Aizawa-san. Suddenly a brand new voice made itself known to the students. Coming into the dorms and walking next to Aizawa is a tall, slender man with black, wavy hair that hangs on one side of his face and short sideburns on both sides. His face was angular with high cheekbones, with thin-framed glasses with large, circular lenses, contrasting with his thin, grayish-blue eyes with mismatched pupils, one white and one black. He wears a beige blazer over an untucked black dress shirt and dark slacks. He also had a black camera around his neck. I want to get a feel for what dorm life is really like, so there's no need for them to act any differently than normal. I didn't say you could come in yet, Aizawa told the man with narrowed eyes. However, this man is not intimidated by the teacher, instead held up his hand and pointed to his wristwatch. I was told I had from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. The reporter informed the 1A homeroom teacher. So unless my watch is wrong, Aizawa couldn't really argue with that and instead just released Mineta from his scarf as the man walked forward and faced the students. Hello everyone, my name is Takuda Tanio. I'm looking forward to learning more about you all. Nice to meet you. All the students greeted and bowed at the reporter now known as Takuda. Takuda simply smiled at the students as he looked over them before noticing something off. Two of the students from the sports festival, Ochako Uraraka and Tsuyu Azui, were absent, and he saw a student that has there been seen before, that student being Lala. Say you're missing a couple of students, Aizawa-san. Takuda pointed out to the eraser quirk user. And I see there's a new face here as well. Takuda pointed at Lala. Uraraka is sick, so Azui offered to take care of her, Aizawa informed the reporter, saying what Mina told him earlier. Then he shifted attention to Lala, who called them to let out a tired and annoyed sigh. As for my, new student, she's a bit of a special case. Long story short, she's an exchange student and her name is Lala Devi-Luke. Ah, I see. Well, shame about Uraraka, but I suppose these things just happen, Takuda said as, while a bit disappointed he wouldn't get to interview those two girls, but understood completely. However, Lala would certainly be an interesting story. And an exchange student? This class is just full of surprises, isn't it? Takuda chuckled a bit as Aizawa narrowed his eyes at him. Now, as I said, you don't need to do anything special. Just go about your day exactly as you normally would. The camera will do most of the work. I might ask an occasional question or two, and I hope you'll answer. Takuda finished this off by sending the class a nice toothy smile. He's got such a nice smile. Mina gushed. That is so not a woman, Mineta complained over the reporter's gender with his body covered in scarf burns. Meanwhile, Aoyama let out a sigh as he put a hand to his head. All the while somehow sparkling. What to do? He asked himself with a grin, getting a few eyes on him. My sparkling personality will undoubtedly draw the camera like a moth to a flame. You're amazing, Aoyama. Sato's sweat dropped at his French classmate's usual antics. This is so exciting. Lala cheered while pumping her fist up and down in eagerness, making her melons bounce a bit in the process, with a large smile on her face. I'm gonna get to be in a newspaper. Just remember, Lala-sama, Peak whispered to Lala so that Takuda wouldn't hear her. You can't reveal that you're an alien. Principal Nizu made that clear yesterday while setting you up for classes here. You don't need to worry, Peak, I'll be careful, Lala whispered back to her robotic friend. Meanwhile, Takuda looked towards Aizawa and said to the homeroom teacher. I'm sure you're already heard this from the principal, but please don't interfere with my reporting, I want dash. I understand, Aizawa said with a slightly raised hand, showing that he did indeed got informed by the principal about this. If you need anything, just let me know. I won't need anything, Takuda reassured the eraser hero. Takuda had no reason to fear anything for just one reason. Everyone in Class 1A promising candidacy to becoming heroes in the future, right? After saying this, Takuda's glasses seemed to shine a bit. After hearing his words, Aizawa turned to the class representative. Ida, if there's a problem, let me know immediately, Aizawa ordered the engine quirk user. Got it? Of course, sir. Ida told his teacher with picture-perfect posture and a stern professional voice worthy of class rep. I, Tenya Ida, as the class representative of Class 1A, will carry out my duties to ensure the safety of all my fellow students, no matter wh-. Okay then Takuda cut off Ida, making the class rep sweat drop a bit. So what would you normally be doing this time of day? Having breakfast. Ida told the reporter before slumping a bit and looking to the tables filled with Lala's failure of food. Although there seems to have been a change in plans for today. Takuda rose a brow at this and looked to the tables and winced at the display of food. A gesture that got Lala to curl up into a ball in shame as Izuku patted her on the back. Takuda then shook his head and put on his normal expression as best he could. I see. Takuda did his best not to voice how bad the food looked, as he could guess by the reaction that Lala made it. Well, anyway, there's no need to be so formal. Just pretend that I'm not here. I can tell this reporter is up to something. Aizawa said in his head as all sorts of instincts in him were going off by this reporter. He just had that vibe that showed that there was more than Takuda was saying. Doesn't feel criminal, though. I'll leave him to it for now. Before leaving the dorms, Aizawa turned his head to the alien princess in the room and spoke up. Lala got out of her ball and looked at Aizawa in curiosity. Even though you start class next week at 1 p.m. meet me in the field, and wear your PE uniform. Okay. Lala nodded, not voicing any objections. How come? You'll see when you get there. Aizawa narrowed his eyes at Lala, suddenly making her flinch and back up, the princess rapidly nodding her head. With that last bit of intimidation, Aizawa turned around and was heading for the exit with one more thought entering his head. That girl is gonna realize just what she's gotten herself into when coming to this school. After that, Takuda got to doing what he came to do. Getting pictures of exactly what dorm life was like for Class 1A. He went around taking pictures all around the dorms of all the students. Of them eating breakfast, once they threw out Lala's stuff and got some proper food made, them heading to class with the exception of Lala since he overheard Aizawa telling Lala that she starts school next week. And he even took pictures in class. Depending on where he took pictures, the students would either try to ignore him or strike a pose. Some like Izuku got nervous when the camera was on him. While some like Bakugo tried their best to get the camera as far away from them as possible. When he could, the reporter asked them some questions, whether it was about how they are liking dorm life or just general questions, and got to know the students each a little bit more. Seat number 1 is Yuga Aoyama, hero name Can't Stop Twinkling. His quirk allows him to shoot a laser from his stomach. Number 2, Mina Ashido, hero name Pinky. She secretes a highly corrosive acid from her body. Number 3 is Tsuyu Azui, hero name Froppy, whose quirk gives her the characteristics of a frog. Number 4 is Tenya Ida, hero name Tenya, the younger son in the Ida hero family. He can move incredibly quickly. Ochako Uraraka is in seat 5, her hero name is Uravity. Anything she touches can become weightless. Number 6, Mashireo Ojiro, hero name Tail Man. His quirk has given him a powerful prehensile tail. Seat 7 is Denki Kaminari, hero name Chargebolt. He can store electricity in his body and discharge it. Number 8, Eijiro Kirishima, hero name Red Riot. His quirk lets him harden his whole physique. Koji Koda is in seat 9 with his hero name being Anima. He has the ability to control fauna. Rikido Suddy, number 10 with the hero name Sugarman. His quirk changes sugar into immense power. Seat 11 is Mizo Shoji, hero name Tentacle, and he can manifest things like eyes, mouths, and ears at the tips of his arms. And number 12, Kyoka Jiro with her hero name being Earphone Jack, can use the plugs on her ears and hear quiet sounds as well as release powerful sonic blasts. Number 13, Hanta Siro, whose hero name is Cellophane. He can shoot sticky tape from his elbows. Number 14 is Fumikage Tokoyami, hero named Tsukuyami. He can manipulate a monster named Dark Shadow. Shoto Todoroki sits in seat 15, his hero name is simply Shoto. He blasts ice from his right side and fire from his left. Seat 16, Toru Hagakure with the hero name Invisible Girl is completely invisible. Number 17, Katsuki Bakugo, hero name Katsuki. The nitroglycerin-like sweat on his palms causes explosions. Seat 18 is the exchange student Lala Devi Luke, hero name Devil Girl. Her quirk gives her the traits, strength, and speed of a devil. Izuku Midoriya is seat 19, hero name is Deku. His quirk lets him increase his physical abilities. Seat 20 is Minoru Mineta, hero name Grape Juice. The ball on his head will stick to anything. Finally, seat 21 is Momo Yaoyorozu, hero name Creati. Her quirk allows her to create things with her body. And so as Takudo continued his reporting and picture taking, the clock hit 1 p.m. I'm here, Aizawa-sensei. Running out to the field to her homeroom teacher wearing a UAPE uniform. With peak not seen on her head as the robot decided to use the opportunity to rest a little and recharge her battery since Lala was provided an outfit. So what are we doing? The princess asked Aizawa checked the time and looked back at Lala with a look that made her flinch. "You're over a minute late," Aizawa told her, making Lala lower her head a bit. There was just something about Aizawa that makes Lala freeze and go silent. A vibe that tells her it's wise not to upset him or annoy him. That's unacceptable. Time is precious, and if you were rational, you'd understand that. I expect to see you get better. I don't care if you are a princess. If you don't have what it takes, I'll kick you out of the course. Lala flinched once again at Aizawa's harsh words and rapidly nodded her head. "Why, yes, sir." Lala nervously stutters a little bit due to the pressure Aizawa put on her. "Alright, here's how this is gonna go." Aizawa pulling out a device, he presses a button and brought up a holographic image of a scoreboard with all the students' names on it. Momo being at the top and Izuku being at the bottom. At the beginning of the year the students performed 8 exercises with their quirks to see where they stood amongst themselves. What you see here are the scores they all got on day 1. We're gonna perform these same exercises and see how you stand to the rest of them. Since you're just starting out, we're comparing you to them just starting out. Aizawa explained what Lala would be doing out here. Okie dokie. Lala cheered as she struck a pose. Only to quickly flinches and stand up straight due to Aizawa glaring at her. "You'll wait for me to finish speaking," Aizawa told her in a low and intimidating tone. Lala was silent and simply nodded her head. "As I said, you'll be performing 8 physical tests. The 50-meter dash, strength grip, standing long jump, repeated side step, ball throw, sit-ups, toe touch, and the long-distance run." As Aizawa instructed Lala on what she would be doing, peeking on them from a distance is none other than Zastin, who had been keeping a close eye on Lala during her time on Earth. "I see, so that's what he's up to," Zastin said as he listened to what Aizawa told Lala and held his chin. "A series of physical trials to test her. While Princess Lala is certainly strong in her own right, in comparison to these Earthlings I can't say how well she'll do." "Oh, and who might you be?" Zastin flinched a little and looked behind him to see none other than the reporter Takuda himself walking up to him with his hands in his jacket pockets. "Wasn't expecting anyone else at this spot." "You're the reporter inspecting Class 1A, correct?" Zastin asked with Takuda nodding and giving the man his trademarked grin. "Well, my name is Zastin, I'm Lala's caretaker here while she's at UA. "Ah, I see, part of the exchange program then?" Takuda asked with Zastin nodding in confirmation. Takuda could see something else was up. He wasn't gonna press for details with this situation as it was probably not something he needed to know. "Well, nice to meet you, name's Takuda Tanio. I remember hearing Aizawa said he wanted to see Deviluk-san at the field during this time. Guess my curiosity took over and I couldn't help but see what was gonna happen. At least I'm not the only one with that idea." "I suppose so." Zastin smiled at the reporter before looking back in the direction of Lala and Aizawa. "Let's see exactly what happens." "Ready," a little robot said as Lala got ready to perform the first test Aizawa assigned her. The 50-meter dash. This test was extremely simple as you simply needed to run a clean 50 meters as fast as you could. A little robot at the end would determine the time it took. Go. Once the robot said go, followed up by a false gunshot, Lala quickly took off running as fast as she could. Aizawa had to admit, she had a decent amount of speed on her as she made it from point A to point B pretty fast. Time, 3.96 seconds. The robot called out Lala's time for the 50-meter dash. Woohoo! Alright. Lala cheered for herself after hearing her time for the dash. However, during her little celebration, Aizawa simply narrowed his eyes at her. The eraser hero didn't like what he was seeing with her at all. "How did I do, Aizawa-sensei?" Lala asked nervously. "We don't have time for cheering over one exercise," Aizawa bluntly told her, making the princess frown. "On to the next exercise, step it up." "Okay." Lala nodded while keeping her gaze at the ground. Test number 2 was the strength grip test. For this Aizawa provided Lala with a grip pressure machine. This was a rather simple device. You squeeze it and it tells you how many kilograms of pressure your grip has. After Aizawa telling her how it works, Lala proceeded to grip the device as hard as she could for a few seconds before checking the pressure gauge. 400 kilograms of pressure. Lala smiled at her score and cheered for herself again, forgetting Aizawa's previous scolding on the manner, as her teacher simply narrowed his eyes at her harshly. Test number 3 was the standing long. Pinkette simply giggled as she landed to the very end of the sand path, scoring the highest possible score. Aizawa didn't say anything, he just motioned to move on to the next test. Test number 4 was the repeated side steps. All Lala has to do was jump between 2 points as much as she could before getting tired. Aizawa timed her and Lala was able to go about the test for about over 3 minutes before her legs got tired. Number 5 is a test Lala found herself getting excited for. The ball throw test. For this one, Aizawa provided Lala with a ball, ordered her to stand in a circle, and throw the ball as far as she could without leaving the circle. Once she was in position, Lala gripped the ball and reared her throwing arm as far as she could, and threw the ball with all the might she could muster. A small shockwave was created from the force as Aizawa watched the ball slowly start to disappear into the distance. The homeroom teacher of 1A heard his device beep and looked to it to see how far Lala threw the ball. 1.3 kilometers, Aizawa told Lala, whose smile quickly brightened at the score. That's good, right? She asked Aizawa with a head tilt. On to the next exercise. Aizawa immediately ordered Lala, causing the princess to frown and nod her head. While she was having fun doing these exercises, every time she asked Aizawa how she was doing, the homeroom teacher Aizawa would simply glare at her and tell her to move on to the next exercise. The alien princess has a feeling that Aizawa was displeased with her. That trend only continued through the last 3 exercises. Throughout the sit-ups, toe touch, and long-distance run, Aizawa simply kept his eyes narrowed at the alien princess the whole time, while occasionally activating his quirk for extra intimidation if needed when she got too excited. Eventually, Lala finished all the exercises Aizawa assigned her. By the time it was over, Lala was panting slightly with her hands on her knees. She looked up to Aizawa, who was looking at the device in his hands, and asked. So, how did I do? The princess asked slowly as she remembered what happened the last few times she asked him this. Aizawa looked at her, with Lala flinching a bit, thinking he was gonna glare at her again, before looking down at his device again and pressing a few buttons. Compared to how the students first did on these exercises, here's how you stand up, Aizawa told her, with Lala's eyes widening at him actually telling her the results of her exercises. Similar to before, a holographic projection was brought up from Aizawa's device and displayed the same scoreboard from before. Only with Lala's name added to it at 3rd place, Lala Devi Luke. Lala smiled widely at her results. Scoring just behind the first scores of Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yaoyorozu. Woo! Lala cheered as she looked at her results. While it was likely that the placements were wildly different for all the students now, Lala was still proud of herself as shown by her clapping. Hey, I can't believe I did so well. That was a lot of fun. Truly a mediocre performance. Lala flinched and gasped as Aizawa spoke up. Looking at the teacher, the princess saw that the eraser quirk user was giving Lala a disapproving glare. What? Lala asked with a confused tone as she looked at her score again. She scored 3rd place. 3rd was good, wasn't it? But I thought I did really good. I'm not talking about your physical performance. On that matter, you scored about above average, but you still have tons of room for improvement. Aizawa informed her, making her only more confused. She thought she did well on the exercises. She's wondering why Aizawa criticizing her. What I'm referring to is your attitude. My attitude? What do you mean? Lala tilted her head and frowned. This only got more confusing for her. The only reason you took this class was to be in the same class as Midoriya, correct? Lala's eyes widened at Aizawa's words. She nodded her head as that was the whole reason she asked Nizu if she could be in this class. After some persuasion, the principal allowed Lala to take both Hero Course 1A and Support Course 1H. After seeing her nod, Aizawa's glare only intensified. "That's what I thought. You shouldn't be here." But why not?" Lala asked as she backed away from Aizawa a bit. Suddenly, halting her backing away, was Aizawa's scarf, which whipped towards her and entangled all of her limbs, making the princess wince. "This whole time, during these exercises, you've treated them as nothing more than a game. A fun activity to breeze through. You're not taking anything seriously. This training in class, your relationship with Midoriya. You act like this is all some sort of game for your enjoyment." Aizawa harshly scolded her, making the princess whimper a bit as his words hit her hard. "Saving lives, keeping citizens safe from villains. Putting your life on the line every day. You have no idea what you're in for in this course." Lala squeaked out fearfully as she started shaking while trapped in Aizawa's scarf. Unable to form the right response to his words. I just... And what about your engagement with Midoriya?" Aizawa cut Lala off before she could make out a response. The princess merely tucked her head between her shoulders as much as she could, Aizawa now scolding something else about her. "You hardly seem to take that seriously as well. So what? Are you just manipulating him to avoid going back home? Messing with his emotions for your own personal gain? That's not true." Lala managed to yell back. It was one thing for him to scold her about how she's treating being in the hero course, but now her relationships as well. "Oh really?" Aizawa questioned as he further glared at Lala. Lala immediately felt whatever strength she mustered to yell back at Aizawa fade away. "Prove me wrong." Aizawa said demandingly. Lala shook in the confines of the scarf as she tried to think of a rebuttal but was unable to think of anything. Lala stuttered in her attempts to say something to prove Aizawa wrong, but doubt was sinking into her and many thoughts were rushing through her head, such as, was he right about all of this? About not really taking her relationship with Izuku seriously? Selfishly taking advantage of him so she wouldn't have to go home and face all those suitor meetings? Those are the words and thoughts are going through her head right now. Humph, just as I thought. Aizawa freed Lala from his scarf. Lala landed on the ground on her hands and knees, head held low as all of. Aizawa's words repeated in her head. "You don't belong here. In this course, or this planet. Are going to kick me out?" Lala asked, her voice quiet and shaking. "That remains to be seen. I'll make my final decision soon," Aizawa told her before turning around and walking away. "For now, go back to the dorms. Now. You're done for today." "Yes, sir." Lala simply nodded and stood up, her hair covering her eyes as she turned around and headed to the dorms. She hugged herself as a few tears went down her eyes. Meanwhile, watching from the same spot as earlier, Zaston was seen seething with rage at Aizawa over his treatment and harsh words aimed at Lala. "That fiend," Zaston growled while gripping the corner of the building tightly while gritting his teeth. "How dare he treat Lala-sama in such a manner?" Zaston was about to go give Aizawa a piece of his mind until a hand on his shoulder stopped him. Looking back, Zaston saw Takuda with his usual grin on his face. "Not so fast there's no need for that," the reporter told the head of the Deviluk Royal Guard with a calm tone. "It may seem harsh, but there's a difference between being a JRK and tough love, and I have a strong case it's the latter." "You believe so?" Zaston asked, calming down from the reporter's words. Takuda nodded at him before looking back at Lala heading back to the dorms. "Why don't you let me talk to her?" Takuda told Zaston as he kept his eyes on the alien princess. "I think I can get through to her." Zaston thought for a moment, then quickly came to a decision. "Very well then." Zaston nodded, allowing Takuda to take control of the situation. "I'll entrust this matter to you," Zaston said as Takuda headed where Lala was going. Suddenly a beeping noise came from him. He immediately pulled out a device that was similar to Lala's and he quickly answers it. "Commander Zaston, we need to report back to the ship. Is it emergency?" The voice of one of the angels that was with him is her, and the other line he sounded a bit distraught. That's got Zaston concerned. Alright, I'll be there immediately. A few hours later, Lala, who is still wearing her PE uniform, could be seen curled up into a ball under a tree in the backyard of the UA dorms. Due to it just recently raining, drops of water would occasionally drip on top of the princess' head. But Lala couldn't care less about that right now. And what about your engagement with Midoriya? You hardly seem to take that seriously as well. So what? Are you just manipulating him to avoid going back home? Messing with his emotions for your own personal gain? That's not true, right? Lala tried to convince herself that Aizawa was wrong about the whole thing. That she wasn't just taking advantage of Izuku to get out of her princess responsibilities and stay here on Earth. But the more she looked at it, the more she realized that it might indeed be true. She thinks back on how she opened up to Izuku on day 2 about how she was glad to finally be rid of all those suitor meetings because she met him. Then Izuku revealed to her his past and showed how much harder his life had been. Especially when compared to her life, while the princess life was hard, she still had family that did understand her situation and was there for her, plus a few friends. While Izuku was pretty much by himself and faced discrimination just because he was quirkless for most of his life. And thinking back to it, his engagement to her was most likely an accident, like he said. She ended up transporting herself into his bath by complete chance. His eyes were closed when he groped her and he was completely shocked and taken off guard by her appearance. He probably didn't even know she was there until after the grope. But she was quick to just accept it and have him as her fiancé because of it. It meant getting out of those boring meetings her father forced on her. Plus she did find Izuku both cute and heroic. But still she didn't really ask him how he felt about the engagement itself. He kinda just went with it. Am I really that selfish? Lala asked herself as Aizawa's words started to seem true. Hey, Devi Luke, right? You okay? Lala tensed up a bit, the sudden new voice startling her a bit, as she looked up from between her knees to see Takuda looking down at her with his usual smile. Penny for your thoughts. All Lala did was whimper a bit and look back down as Takuda stood right next to her. This spot taken. Go ahead. Lala said with a saddened tone, allowing for the news reporter to sit down next to her. So got something you want to get off your chest? Takuda asked with a kind and gentle tone, hoping to get the upset girl to open up to him. It usually helps to talk about what's eating you with others. I guess, Lala mumbled as she looked at the ground. Perhaps talking about this with someone would be a great help. Takuda seemed like a nice and approachable man and, like Mina said earlier, he did have a really nice smile. I guess, first of all, I never expected this hero course stuff to be so intense. Lala said. Takuda smiled and nodded his head at Lala, remembering Aizawa's scolding earlier. He can easily tell that this girl was pretty much just dipping her feet into the world of heroism. And it was a deep and dangerous pool. Well, I can't speak from experience, being a pro ain't easy. Especially now that All Might's gone. Villains are being bolder and stepping out of the shadows. Takuda began explaining with Lala giving him all ears. The thought of villains made Lala shiver a bit as, given how strong these students training to be heroes were, she could only imagine how terrifying those people could be. It ain't an easy job, but it's probably the most rewarding. At the end of the day, you know you saved someone and kept their families from suffering grief. Huh? Lala suddenly got curious as to what Takuda meant by that and turned to him and asked. What do you mean? Takuda smiled as he looked to the sky, old memories coming back to him. It was 18 years ago at an industrial complex. Takuda began with Lala listening to every word of the reporter's story. 24 workers were there when a bombing went down. One of those workers was my father, and all I could do was watch as the entire place burned. I thought my dad was gone, but then a miracle happened. He happened. All Might. He single-handedly saved everyone trapped inside, my father included. I watched as he had him and everyone else safe in his arms and told all of us watching that everything would be okay because he was here. Wow, Lala said in amazement as something Izuku said came to her mind. That's the kind of hero I want to be. A hero that goes into any situation with a smile on his face, save everyone that I can, and reassure everyone that everything will be okay by saying, I am here. Those words held new meaning to Lala now that she was hearing Takuda's story. What happened after that? A spark of hope shined within me. Takuda recounted as he remembered the feeling All Might brought him perfectly. A spark that told me everything will be okay. That's what I think pros should do. Bring a spark of hope and justice into people that tells them everything will be alright and that there's nothing to fear. A spark of hope. Lala looked at her hand as she thought about Takuda's words and what Aizawa told her. People in trouble whether from disasters or villains. Begging for help and heroes being the one to answer those calls, even if it meant risking their lives. Each of the students in Class 1A was here because they wanted to follow that code except for her. Can I really do something like that? Lala questions. I think you can. Lala's eyes widened as she felt Takuda place a hand on her shoulder, a reassuring smile on his face. I think you have what it takes. Call it reporter's instincts, but I feel something great in you, Lala Devi Luke. It's gonna be hard, and you're gonna have to get used to a lot of tough situations, but you got plenty of people here willing to help you do that. Being in this class means you got a lot of people watching your back and being your friend. Takuda says with an encouraging smile. Yeah, I guess you're right. A small smile came to Lala's face as she thought of everyone in Class 1A. She's only known them for a short time, but they were all a fun group of people, each with their own distinct personalities and quirk. All of which are training to become future heroes for the good of Earth's society. They are really amazing, especially Izuku. A frown came to Lala's face again as she was once again left with the dilemma of her taking advantage of probably the best student in that class. At least in her opinion. It's funny that you should mention that him. Takuda said, getting Lala to raise a brow at him as he sent the princess a wink. See, I wasn't 100% honest about why I'm here. It might be easier to just show you. Follow me and listen in. Takuda said. This got her curious. Some time has passed, though the rain has stopped and the sky has begun to clear up out of the gray clouds. We see a appealing sunset and we see both Izuku and Takuda sitting together and talking outside of the dorms, both eating some meat buns. Next we see Izuku indeed thought that he stares into his right fist. Midoriya-kun, Takuda called out his last name, gaining his attention. Yes. We still have hope. Huh. Izuku says, confusing what he's talking about. Then Takuda pulled out a picture he has just taken minutes prior to All Might and Izuku with the former's hand on the latter's shoulder. After his talk with Lala, Takuda went to go find Izuku Midoriya and had managed to catch Izuku and All Might talking. After sharing a meat bun and the story about All Might saving his dad with Izuku, Takuda pulled out the photo. Meanwhile, as Takuda said, Lala was listening nearby behind a bush. Next it's your turn. Izuku was taken back by the picture Takuda had made. What? A picture? The greenette gasped as he looked around for where the camera that could have taken that picture was. What, that picture? How, you don't have a camera on you? Izuku questioned as he looked around. You have a feeling that he might have a hidden camera somewhere on the premises. And how did you printed it? Izuku as further as Takuda hands him the picture he took. It turned out my quirk is a pretty handy one to have when you work in journalism, Takuda explained as he handed the photo to Izuku and held out his hand, then proceeded to make a camera lens from the palm of it. A camera lens. Izuku let out as he looked at the organic camera lens. So cool. Lala agreed as she and Izuku said that last part in unison from where they were. I can produce them everywhere. Takuda explained as he proceeded to create lenses over his entire body from his arms to his legs, and even one on his cheek as he gave Izuku his trademarked smile. Freelance journalist, Tanio Takuda. Quirk, whole body lens. He can sprout lenses anywhere on his body. He can even print pics from his chest. No wonder he ends up with so many scoops. After showing off his quirk to Izuku, Takuda stood up and looked into the distance, his hands in his pockets. Everybody heard All Might's last words after the Kamino incident. Now, it's your turn. Izuku flinched a bit as Takuda explained this, knowing full well that was All Might telling Izuku that it was his turn to stand up and become the new symbol of peace, and it seemed Takuda pieced that together. And as I thought he was saying them to you, Midoriya-kun. What? Lala quietly gasped from her hiding spot as Izuku started to nervously sweat a little bit. As I investigated, I found plenty of similarities between you two, Takuda explained how he came to his conclusion. The quirk you manifested is a power type like his. And in middle school, you tried to rescue Bakugo when he was captured by a villain, despite the odds. All Might was the one who saved you both that day. And after you enrolled at UA High at the same time, he became a teacher here. Izuku grew more nervously as Takuda continues to explain. I visited the Pussycats agency, and I met Kota there. Kota-kun? Izuku asked, remembering the boy he saved from being killed by a villain named Muscular. Kota? Who's that? Lala wondered out loud. That's when my suspicions were truly confirmed. Takuda finished up his explanation. That you are All Might's successor. Izuku was a little frozen, this guy pretty much nailed it all on the head. Meanwhile, Lala was covering her mouth, trying not to give away her location. What do you think about my deduction? Oh, well Izuku nervously stuttered as he poked his fingers together, the thing is. You can't lie, can? Takuda saved Izuku from tripping over his words, trying to find some way to fib and say it wasn't true. I like that. After all, heroes speak the truth. All Izuku could do was blink at Takuda. He remembers that line from a hero memoir he read once. Well, it's just that You don't have to worry. Takuda reassured Izuku, getting the boy to calm down. I'm not writing an expose even if I did have evidence. To be honest, I should probably be apologizing to you. You see, I was never planning to report on dorm life. Izuku lightly gasped as Takuda went on. I apologize. But I just had to know. That there's still hope in this world. Hope, Lala thought as she put a hand to her heart. She remembered that spark of hope Takuda told her about that All Might brought him. That heroes should bring in others. That she could bring in others. With this I don't have to give false encouragement to those who are uneasy. Takuda said as he smiled at the sky as a rainbow formed due to the recent rainfall and a single star right next to the rainbow. After our conversation here, I can probably report that, if All Might has retired, there is still hope. Takuda said as he looked away from the sky and offered his hand to shake to Izuku. I'm sorry if I caused you any stress. But thank you. Sure. Izuku smiled at Takuda as the two shared a handshake. One more thing. Suddenly Takuda pulled Izuku closer to him and used his other hand to take a selfie with the boy, catching him off guard. After the surprise selfie, the news reporter printed it from his chest and started walking away. I'm gonna cherish this picture. I'll keep it under wraps until later when I publish my book about you. I think I even settled on a title, When the New Symbol of Peace Was Young. What do you think? Izuku gave him a determined look and nodded. I'll try my best and I'll live up to that name. Izuku told him, making the reporter grin. I'm sure you will. Hero. Takuda waved to Izuku. But he then stopped and said one more thing. By the way, that exchange student. She wouldn't happen to be your girlfriend, would she? Lala's eyes widened at that as Izuku blushed a bit. Well, Izuku nervously said as he started poking his fingers together. Something like that, yeah. Takuda simply smiled as his eyes moved to the bush he knew Lala was hiding behind. She's waiting for you in your room. The reporter told the brunette, getting his eyes to widen. Lala could see where the reporter was going with, and she quickly headed to the balcony that led to Izuku's room. You should talk to her, I think she needs it. Izuku blinked a bit, wondering what he meant by that, as Takuda started walking away. You know, a girl like her doesn't come around every day, you should cherish her. See you later, Izuku Midoriya. With that, Takuda made his way off campus as Izuku started heading to his room. Lala? Are you here? Mr. Takuda said you were here. Izuku said as he entered his dorm room. As soon as Takuda left, Izuku is quick to drop off the meat buns All Might had given him to share with the rest of his class and made his way to his dorm room where he said Lala was waiting for him. Based on what the reporter said, it seemed Lala needed some cheering up over something. Sure enough, when Izuku entered his room he saw Lala sitting on her knees on his bed. Still wearing her PE uniform and Peak still nowhere in sight. Most likely sleeping in Lala's actual room. Hey, Zuzu, can I ask you something? Lala said with a low voice that sounded unnatural coming from her. Izuku was used to Lala being all peppy and happy most of the time, so this was a bit of a red flag. When he told her that of course, she said, the question she asked shocked him a bit. Sure, is there something wrong? He asked in a worried tone. Am I selfish? What? Izuku gasped as he backed up a bit. That was one of the last questions he was expecting Lala to ask her, combined that with the frown she had on her face told Izuku that everything was clearly not alright. Lala, what's wrong? Today during my time with Aizawa-sensei, I guess I began to look at things in a different way, Lala revealed, making Izuku's eyes widen a bit. He remembered Aizawa saying he wanted to meet up with Lala at 1 p.m. that day, and considering how Aizawa is, Izuku quickly pieced together what might have happened. Aizawa was known for incredibly tough love after all. He told me how I might be taking advantage of you. Using you just to avoid going back home. Lala, Izuku wasn't really liking how Lala was talking right now. He remembered Lala speaking of those marriage meetings 4 days ago, but he didn't think Lala was taking advantage of him like that. I thought maybe it was true. As soon as you accidentally proposed to me, I quickly latched onto you. Knowing it was a way out of going back home, and I hate that. At this point, Lala had tears building up in her eyes as she couldn't stand to even face Izuku now. From day one you were always putting me ahead of yourself. Protecting me, fighting for me, and even just cheering me up. You're so nice and selfless and heroic. I don't want to take advantage of someone like you. Izuku was silent as Lala continued speaking, frowning as the pinkette started to cry. If you want to break the engagement, I'll do it, Lala said, making Izuku's eyes widen. If I'm the one who breaks it, it won't cause any problems if I'm the one who does it. You can continue following your dream without me holding you down. Lala flinched a bit at Izuku's silence, the weight for his answer being unbearable. Lala, you don't have to do that. Suddenly Lala felt a soft hand on her head rising up and meeting the soft green orbs of Izuku's eyes, as well as seeing his soft and reassuring smile. Lala's teary eyes widened as Izuku spoke to her. I'm fine with the whole thing, really. And I don't think you're taking advantage of me, not at all. Really? Lala questioned as sniffled a bit. Izuku nodded at her to reassure the princess, using a thumb to wipe away some of her tears. Look, I'll admit I was a bit surprised by the news, Izuku told her as he sat down next to her on the bed. I mean, it's not every day I suddenly get engaged to an alien princess by, unconventional methods. But I think we can make it work. We can just put the whole engagement thing to the side and just get to know each other better. Take things slower. You really mean it? Lala asked as a smile started to come back to her face. Did Izuku really mean this? You really want to? Well, yeah, Izuku said as he twiddled his thumbs a bit with a flustered look on his face. Even now, Lala couldn't help but find that absolutely adorable. Oh, only if you want to, that is. I'd love to, Zuzu, Lala said as she leaned close to him and hugged him. But unlike her usual hugs, this one was soft and warm, different from her usual surprise lunges. But there was still one more thing Lala needed to do. And Zuzu, can I ask you something? Of course, Izuku told her as he hugged her close. Can you teach me how to be a hero? Izuku gasped a little bit at the request and separated from her a bit and looked her in the eyes. Aizawa-sensei told me I have no idea what I'm getting into with joining your class. And he's right. I only wanted to be in your class to be closer to you, but I don't know anything about the hero life. I know it's hard, but I want to try and become one like you are. So I can proudly stand by your side one day. I'll do it, Izuku told her with little hesitation, making her smile. I'm sure if we work and train hard, we'll both be great heroes. Together. Together, Lala repeated as she leaned in to hug him again, the two simply enjoying the other embrace. Meanwhile, elsewhere in outer space we see a very intimidating spaceship floating above the Earth. Zooming in we see the two agents that were with Zaston. They are in front of a monitor. Coming in we see Zaston looking a bit calm but a little bit of worry at the same time. What's the situation? Zaston asked seriously. Commander Zaston, we have detected a ship heading towards Earth. One of the agents said as he moved away to show Zaston the monitor on the screen. It shows an unknown object heading to Earth. A serious look has formed on his face. So one of them is already making their move, Zaston said seriously to himself. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Moto Akira on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.